For 3 grueling decades, although Kang was trapped in another world, a lone wolf fighting for survival, he battled his way through hordes of monsters, until he finally slayed the Demon King. After decades of war, he earned his ticket back to Earth. But his homecoming was bittersweet. Earth, too, had fallen prey to a monstrous invasion. Kang retained every ounce of his otherworldly power. He possessed an incredible gaze that could see through the very fabric of reality. But now, his only desire was to hunt the world's most powerful monsters and cook them. Because to Kang, monsters weren't enemies. They were ingredients. Amidst a ruined city, emergency sirens wailed incessantly. A radio broadcast crackled to life, announcing an attack by classminus 4 monsters and the dispatch of a hunter. But before the announcer could finish, something smashed the device to pieces, and a swarm of bizarre creatures began to tear the city apart. A hunter charged into the fray. He realized there were several of them, and they all puffed out their chests in unison. One let out a piercing shriek that echoed through the desolate streets. The hunter muttered that the noise from 10 of them would shatter his eardrums. Instantly, he unleashed his violent energy, launching himself into the sky with incredible force. The energy morphed into a whip, lashing out and striking one of the creatures. With a grim expression, he wondered if the beast even knew it was dead yet. Suddenly, a brilliant flash in the sky drew everyone's attention. A beam of pure energy rained down, obliterating the monster horde. The hunter stared in awe, wondering what had just happened. A woman appeared, praising her captain for taking them all out in a single blow. "That wasn't me," he replied. "I don't have wide-range attacks like the Queen of Blades." They both stared into the empty space, trying to make sense of it. He asked if another hunter unit had been dispatched, but she confirmed they were alone. The hunter was baffled. He didn't know anyone in Korea with that kind of devastating power. The woman noticed the attacker had left behind the mana stones, the most valuable part of the kill. The captain reasoned that only a hunter could make such a clean cut and wondered about their motive. He instructed her to collect the stones and call in the cleanup crew. But as he surveyed the destruction, something nearby caught his eye. It was a restaurant with a strangely simple sign. With a smirk, he remarked that if the mysterious attacker had missed, the monster corpses would have crushed the place flat. He sighed. "I'm out of here. I need a drink after all this." Just then, our protagonist appeared on a nearby balcony, a satisfied smile on his face. He strolled leisurely, dabbing his mouth with a napkin after a meal. Then, he descended the stairs and walked right into the very restaurant the hunter had just seen. Inside the kitchen, he pressed a button, activating one of his special machines. The chef placed a pan on the stove to heat up. Using a crystal device, he analyzed a large cut of meat he'd just acquired. And he tossed the slab onto the counter, ready to work. Turning his back, the man contemplated the best way to prepare it. He wondered if he'd taken too much felta meat for his needs. After a moment's thought, he decided to turn some of it into jerky. But suddenly, a knock came at the door. "Sir, call Ho Kang." At the door, a man introduced himself as an agent from the National Hunter Association. He informed Kang that the area had been attacked by monsters, but the situation was now under control. He explained they were doing routine checks, and our protagonist seemed to understand perfectly. With a smile, he noted that since few people lived there, the damage was minimal. But then, the agent caught a strange scent in the air, his eyes widening in surprise. He leaned in and began to sniff, exclaiming that something smelled unbelievably delicious. Our protagonist simply replied that it was a restaurant, which made the agent's stomach roar. The agent asked if he could get some breakfast, as he hadn't eaten since early morning. With a chime of the door's bell, he stepped inside, his eyes scanning the interior with curiosity. He was impressed, remarking that the place looked like something out of an old TV show. He asked for a menu, but our protagonist explained that he cooks based on the ingredients of the day. So, a kind of daily special, the agent guessed. The chef confirmed it was something like that. With a grin, he revealed that today's special was steak. The agent was stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. He quickly deduced the meat must have come from the 10 monsters the spearman had just defeated. The chef confirmed it, saying that thanks to the hunter, he'd acquired some wonderfully fresh cuts. Flustered and excited, the agent fumbled for his wallet, worrying if he could even afford such a dish. The scene focuses on the chef as he begins to slice thick, otherworldly steaks. He then expertly seasons them, preparing them for the pan. A flashback begins, showing us 30 years ago when the impossible happened. Kang woke up to find himself summoned to a completely different world. And in that world, teeming with dragons and monsters, he had to fight tooth and nail to survive. In the flashback, he faces a colossal dragon, narrowly dodging a powerful attack. After growing stronger than them all, he finally defeated the terrifying Demon King. And then, as if by fate, he found his way back to Earth. But upon his return, he found Seoul was no longer the place he remembered. He had spent 30 years in battle, so he knew the weak points of every monster species. While cooking, he wondered if he needed to get involved in these affairs anymore. After all, the people here had created their own system to protect themselves. This was the new world he lived in. So, he decided to focus on his craft. As the dish neared completion, he grabbed a spatula and announced it was done. And there it was, the exquisite Velta steak, a masterpiece of glistening, juicy perfection. The agent gulped, mesmerized by a dish he never expected to see. He speared a piece with his fork, bracing himself. With the first bite, his eyes shot open, a look of pure shock on his face. He exclaimed that the meat was melting in his mouth, a sensation that relaxed his entire body. But suddenly, he shot up from his seat. This is no time to be thinking about that. He decided to forget the price, figuring he deserved to treat himself today. With his plate wiped clean, he ordered another Velta steak, much to the chef's amusement. After devouring this second plate, he took a deep breath and asked for the bill. The chef said the first customer of the day eats for free, but the agent insisted. He felt energized, and, since he planned to come back, he was determined to pay. Hearing this, our protagonist smiled faintly, seemingly pleased with the idea. He told him the price was 10 silver. The agent left the money on the table, thanking him for the meal. The agent turned to leave but paused and looked back. He advised the owner to be careful, as these were hard times for ordinary people. With that, he offered his business card, warning that it was still dangerous outside. The card read J. Wuchoi, Hunter Association Patrol Unit. Our protagonist was lost in thought, repeating, hard times for ordinary people. Watching the agent leave, he thought to himself that the man seemed like a good person, and hoped he'd live a long life. Back in the kitchen, he cut a piece from the meal he'd prepared for himself, and as he tasted it, he confirmed that the flavor was, as expected, sublime. That night, an owl appeared at the window, breaking the silence of the streets. Our protagonist stretched, thinking it had been another quiet day. He remembered the Velta egg and wondered what he could make with it. But suddenly, the restaurant door was kicked open with a thunderous crash. A red-haired man stood in the entrance, declaring, "I finally found you." Kalho turned, bewildered. With a furious expression, the intruder announced he was here to take back what was his. The scene shifts to a few hours earlier at a bustling market. Monsters had wiped out crops and livestock, leaving humanity with few options. They began eating monster meat, an idea that quickly caught on. As a result, the market for monster products boomed, and a vendor was hawking fresh eggs. Our hero asked if they were Velta eggs, but the vendor claimed they were all the same. Kalho activated his skill, Eye of Scrutiny, to inspect the goods. The skill, derived from a dragon artifact, could reveal the identity of anything. It allowed him to see the rank and species of each egg. The skill was so powerful it could even tell if someone was lying, which is why he avoided using it on people. He decided to take a batch. But among them, one shimmering blue egg displayed no information. Finding it strange, he told the vendor to add the mysterious egg to his box. Back in the kitchen, he cracked an egg, remembering a time when he thought eating was a waste. Back then, a good meal was a luxury, but now he savored every moment. With that in mind, he prepared the dish of the day, Velta scrambled eggs. He recalled sharing this very dish with his comrades on the battlefield. Taking a bite, he thought about how the milk truly enhanced the creaminess of the Velta eggs. Alone in his restaurant, he realized the dish was perfect, and the memories came flooding back. The faces of those he missed began to reappear, making him feel his age. Then, his attention shifted. He remembered the Eye of Scrutiny couldn't scan that one egg. He knew the dragon artifact was formed when a dragon was born, making it incredibly effective against everything except its own kind. He touched the egg, wondering if it could possibly be a dragon egg. As he pondered its potential flavor, the door was kicked open, abruptly interrupting him. The intruder looked around, questioning if this was even a restaurant. With a shout, he announced he was here to reclaim what was his. Pointing directly at Kalho, he said he knew he'd find him with the egg. Kalho realized his Eye of Scrutiny didn't work on this intruder either. He simply asked, "Are you a dragon?" The question left the red-haired man in shock. Watching the intruder's body burst into flames, Kalho was surprised to learn dragons existed in this world. Engulfed in fire, the intruder roared, demanding to know how he had discovered his identity. The flames began to lick at the ceiling, and Kalho merely complained about the damage to his restaurant. He explained he had an artifact that could see through anything except dragons themselves. Kaldo thought this made things easier, which only confused the dragon further. He offered to return the egg, but told him he had to clean up the mess first, infuriating the intruder. Just then, the dragon spotted a blue knife and asked if it was a dragon's scale. The scent of the cutting board also caught his attention. He realized it was dragon bone. Enraged, he screamed that a human was using his kin as kitchen utensils. He attacked with full force, launching a ball of energy and roaring, "Die, human!" Kaldo just looked slightly bored, as if it were no big deal. The attack threw him back, and he complained that now it would be even harder for the dragon to clean up the mess. But he rose to his feet, unleashing a powerful aura, and speaking of the nature of dragons. From his hand, a frying pan materialized, ready for battle. With a single swing, he deflected the dragon's attack. The intruder was utterly stunned, unable to believe the power the human had just displayed. With his eyes glowing, Kaldo advanced, saying that dragons only learn one way. And as he struck with the pan, he said it was the hard way. The scene left the intruder bewildered, as he remembered hearing those words before. In a flashback, our protagonist demands artifacts from the dragon's father. The great dragon was insulted, unable to believe the human's audacity, but his son tried to warn him, saying this was the dreaded warrior, Manhwa. From what he had witnessed 30 years ago, he knew his father was about to get another beating. Snapping out of the flashback, our hero realized the intruder was just a kid. He said he had nothing against him, which startled the red-haired boy. Now seated, he told the intruder to come talk about the mess he'd made. The protagonist told him to clean everything up, after which he could take the egg and go. He also warned him that he didn't like dragons, and their next conversation might be more violent. The boy began scrubbing the floor, wringing out a rag with his hands. He explained he came from the continent of Aspan, pulled through a dimensional rift. The chef understood, and the boy asked if he was also from Aspan. He revealed that in the other world, his name was Manhwa, and here he was Kaldo King. Hearing this, the dragon scrubbed the floor frantically, now certain this was the man who had terrified his father. Seeing the floor gleam, the protagonist told him to grab his things and leave. But the boy stood up and asked why he never returned his father's relics. The chef recognized that aura, remembering Rex, the fire dragon. He beckoned the boy closer, saying he'd stopped beating up dragons 30 years ago. The boy asked his age, and he revealed he was a little over 50. Then, the protagonist said he was older since he was almost 60, which shocked the dragon. He joked if it was because he was too handsome, making the boy blush, but he quickly turned serious, saying that back then, the only language dragons understood was force. The protagonist started laughing, finding it amusing that a dragon could be so obedient. He explained that he'd never killed a dragon and his tools were gifts. As for the relics, he said they were damaged in the fight against the Demon King. Seeing this would be a long conversation, he offered the boy a drink to relax, but the dragon flew into a rage, roaring how dare he think he would drink with a human. And after all that yelling, the dragon passed out, face planting on the table. Slurring his words, he said the human should feel honored to drink with him. The protagonist asked if the egg was his, but the dragon shouted that it was his sister. He explained that a rift had opened in their nest while their parents were away. Our hero asked how long he'd been here, and he replied about half a year. The chef noted that was around the same time he'd returned to Earth, which confused the dragon. He explained it took him a while to sort things out over there before coming here. The boy asked why he was hiding in some random restaurant. He insisted that a monster with such power could easily rule this world, but the dragon slammed the table, roaring that humans were greedy and only wanted power. Our hero replied that he had a point, but all of that was just noise to him now. He told the boy he didn't trust humans, and that he should take care of his family. With a goofy grin, the dragon hugged the egg, asking if his sister was adorable, but he suddenly lost his balance, and Kaldo flinched as he almost fell. He just sighed, looking exhausted after all the commotion. Kaldo woke up abruptly the next day. He noticed an adorable little dragon staring at him. Just then, the baby dragon revealed herself, and her brother shouted in joy that it was his sister. He celebrated that she had finally hatched right on the restaurant table. The protagonist asked what they call a newly hatched dragon, and he replied that he was still thinking of a name. He picked her up, and her brother yelled not to treat her like a pet. He pinched her cheek, noting that despite being small, she already had sharp teeth. The red-haired boy proudly said she was the cutest thing he'd ever seen. With a gentle pat, our hero agreed, admitting she was indeed very cute. He asked the boy where he planned to take the little dragon now. The chef waited in silence for the dragon's answer. With a smile, he said it didn't matter where they went, just as a noise started outside. The scene showed the restaurant, and he told them to eat before they left. The scene shifted to a rainy day, creating a heavy, melancholic atmosphere. He remembered how demons would arrive with the storm, and the smell of blood would carry on the wind. An image of the last drink he shared with someone very dear came to mind, and her final words echoed, telling him to live his own life. Back in the present, he served a hamburger steak, making the baby dragon squeal with delight. The red dragon, startled, asked if it was time to go, and how much the food cost. Our hero said it was 10 silver, but he could go without paying, which made the boy feel awkward. With a leap, the dragon asked if he rented rooms at the restaurant. Hearing there were none, he became dejected, thinking dragons weren't always so proud. Then an idea struck him, and he placed a huge mana stone on the table as a gift. He explained it was a class -4 stone, and that he knew it was valuable in this world. Seeing this, the hero couldn't help but laugh at the situation, covering his face. Suddenly, the baby dragon's stomach growled, and he asked if she was still hungry. He understood that raising a child on Earth wasn't easy, even for a dragon. With that, he thought that deep down, he missed the other world a little too. He mused that even if he could never see her again, the longing remained. With a smile, he said they could stay, and that he wouldn't need the mana stone. But the boy felt ashamed, saying he couldn't stay without paying. The hero then accepted the gift, and black smoke began to emanate from his fingers. Just then, a portal of energy opened in the middle of the restaurant, shocking the dragon. And from within, Hasim, an immortal elf, appeared and greeted the king of the world. The protagonist explained that he managed his subspace and told the elf to cut it out. He then asked how many mana stones were stored in his personal inventory. Hasim replied that he had as many as grains of sand, but only a few of the highest grade. The hero handed over the stone he'd received, telling the elf to add another grain of sand to the pile. But before leaving, Hasim said he needed to retrieve one of those stones. He handed one to his master, leaving the dragon utterly confused by the situation. The elf said his goodbyes, almost calling the protagonist king of the world again, but he corrected himself, bidding farewell to Kang, a simple, ordinary man. With the subspace portal closed, he turned and said he'd need the dragon's help. The restaurant's facade appeared on a sunny day, looking much more peaceful than before. Inside, the little white dragon was sleeping soundly, enjoying a moment of peace. But suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside. In the backyard, the hero was teaching the dragon how to control his flames without burning everything down. He told the boy to try again, focusing his fire on a skewer he was holding. And just like that, a piece of meat was perfectly grilled, medium rare. The dragon was curious, asking about the skewer he'd retrieved from his subspace. It was revealed to be the greatest masterpiece ever forged by a master dwarven blacksmith. The boy didn't understand why he was wasting such a treasure in the kitchen, but the hero countered. He said it was better to use it than let it collect dust, and the dragon finally agreed. Suddenly, the bell chimed, and Jae Woo Choi walked into the restaurant. With a smile, he said he was just passing by on his daily patrol. Meanwhile, the red dragon appeared, washing dishes, covered in soap suds. Jae Woo Choi sat down to eat, remarking that the food was as delicious as ever. He noticed the boy working and said the owner must have hired some help. Jae Woo Choi mentioned that a new dungeon had opened in the city, and they were recruiting hunters. The protagonist grew pensive, processing the news of this new dungeon. He knew dungeons were like nests, a perfect place for monsters to breed, and he was certain they were dimensional gates since that's what had happened to him and the dragon. The agent explained that the estimated difficulty was class -5, making it highly dangerous. So, they were sending Hunter Sang Hugh Kim and the Zank team, and Chaeyeon, the Ice Witch, would also be securing the other end of the area. He lamented that the square was full of hunters looking for work on these missions. The agent was sad because many had families to feed, and the competition was fierce. The conversation ended, and he said his goodbyes, thanking him for the meal, as always. The dragon looked proud, and the hero confirmed that the customer loved the food. With cash in hand, he thought about buying more Tahoe meat to stock up. The scene shifted to the market, where he asked a butcher for 10 kilos of a sirloin. Just then, he heard someone shouting for anyone wanting to join the raid to form a line. He observed the crowd, and a spear-wielding hunter among them looked very familiar. He finally remembered it was the spear mage, the one called Sang Hugh Kim. Seeing the recruitment ads, he remembered the games he used to play. Since the world turned into one big fantasy game, a lot of jargon had become common. And just like in a game, healers and tanks were highly valued, but most were damage dealers. A desperate hunter even tried to find a spot, but the party said they only needed healers. The memory of the association agent came back, saying, "Everyone there has a family to feed." Hearing this, our protagonist seemed to have made a decision. his expression turning serious. He thought that Agent J was a good person, but he should worry more about himself. The scene changes, and a man with a backpack seems to be looking for something in his pockets. He takes out a wallet, but when he opens it, he finds it completely empty. With a tired sigh, he continues walking with a bit of hope in his eyes, but he stops for a moment, gripping the straps of his backpack a little tighter. Back at the restaurant, Paolo calls for Khan and finds the kitchen spotless. Suddenly, the bell chimes, and he turns to see who has arrived. It's the same man from the street, and he asks in a wary voice if the place is still open. Our hero serves a glass of water, and the man thanks him tiredly. He asks if the restaurant serves instant noodles, and the owner says yes, it will just take a moment. The chef grabs a packet of noodles, thinking that even after 30 years, instant noodles were still popular. Just then, the man asks how much a bowl costs, and the owner replies it's 2 silver. With a radiant smile, he's surprised by the price and immediately orders 5 bowls. The owner doubts he can eat it all, but the customer assures him he can. Finding this very strange, the hero activates his skill, the Eye of Scrutiny. He discovers this man is a glutton, a class an old friend of his once had. This ability makes the user stronger depending on the quality and quantity of food. It explained that they gained a lot of power by eating high-level monsters, getting a power boost, but until they could do that, they saw almost no results and lived with an endless hunger. The man's stomach rumbled, confirming he was still in the early stages of the skill. Our hero realized that this man had never been able to surpass this level and reach his peak. So, he served a massive bowl of instant noodles with several pieces of Tejon meat on top. The customer was speechless, and the owner said the meat was on the house. He thought that good people always had it raw, and in times like these, they were the first to suffer. So, he told him the Tejon meat would give him a significant power boost since it was on the house. The man thanked him with tears in his eyes and took a large bite of the meat. And with the first bite, the flavor exploded in his mouth, leaving him in absolute bliss. He shouted, wondering how something could be so delicious. And the owner just smiled at his reaction. Wasting no time, he began to devour the noodles with the appetite of a lion. And to make sure nothing was left, he tilted the bowl, drinking all the broth in one go. With his plate completely clean, he took a deep breath, grateful for the incredible meal. The customer insisted that everything was amazing, and the owner said he was glad he enjoyed it. But when it was time to pay, he fumbled, dropping his wallet and coins on the floor. As he gathered his things, he was surprised to find a folded tie in his wallet. He handed over the crumpled money, thanking him once again, and the owner accepted it without issue. Before leaving, the man waved goodbye and promised to return. Paolo noticed his clothes were dirty, but that tie looked new. He figured the man was just trying to survive in a chaotic world and let it go. But it wasn't long before he would cross paths with the man again on the street. Suddenly, the man stopped when he heard a noise, his face turning very serious. He saw a dimensional gate had gone out of control in the middle of the city. In the middle of the city, a sinister dimensional gate opened in the sky, spreading dark energy throughout the area. The authorities acted quickly, cordoning off the area and shouting for all civilians to evacuate immediately. A hunter approached the barricade and asked if he could help, but the guard immediately asked for his rank. He replied that he was a glutton, and the guard dismissed him, warning that the situation was too dangerous. Suddenly, a girl appeared amidst the chaos, using her healing magic on one of the injured. The hunter recognized her and was shocked, realizing it was Mijin, his daughter. Desperate, he broke through the security line and ran toward her, shouting her name. He asked what she was doing here, and she explained that the school had sent support hunters. Mijin told her father to leave, but he insisted, saying he was just worried about her. But she erupted in anger, shouting that all he did was eat and work and was never home for anything. She pushed him away and screamed for him to evacuate, causing his phone to fall to the ground. As she turned away, Majin spotted a strange object on the asphalt and asked if it was a tie. She stared at her father with a puzzled look, saying he didn't even own a suit. Just then, a portal of light opened, and a steel-toed boot stepped firmly onto the ground. From it, Sang-hyu and his team, the elite hunters, emerged to handle the situation. One of the hunters announced that the dungeon had been cleared, congratulating everyone on their great teamwork. She asked the healers to gather and tend to the wounded, and Mijin immediately ran to help. Her father was left behind, standing motionless as the team celebrated their successful mission. The scene changes, and we are told about classes, the types of abilities hunters have. There are 5 levels of mastery, and young hunters are trained at the Cipher School to evolve. Once someone masters their first class, it's possible to unlock a second one with great effort. Those who achieve this feat are considered the elite of the Hunter Association. But if a person awakens a low-level class, evolving becomes an impossible task. That's why it's better for them to find a job more suited to their lives. The scene shifts to Kalho, who recalls awakening his 6th class during his final battle. He gets frustrated in the kitchen, thinking this must be his limit since he never found a 7th class. Just then, a red-haired girl bursts in, calling him Mira before correcting herself to Kalho. She says that something incredible has happened. Jewel has shed her skin, and just spoke. The girl shows him the little creature and asks it to say Khan's name. But the little creature stares at Kalho and shouts an excited dad. Kalho feels awkward being called dad. While the red-haired girl enjoys the scene, he tries to brush it off, wondering if the name Kyul is too Korean, but she argues the creature was born in this world. She then asks the creature to say her name, Khan, and joyfully celebrates the achievement. Kalho asks which class he has mastered since dragons are born with one, but Khan says he doesn't know yet. Suddenly, the bell chimes, and the girl quickly hides behind the counter. The door opens, and the hunter from before walks in, asking for 5 bowls of instant noodles. Khan doesn't understand why he's doing this as the man sits down, completely dejected. He begins to vent to Kalho, saying he went to the attack site and found his daughter. The hunter laments that he couldn't help her because he's a class -7 and is treated like a civilian. But he explains his daughter is a class -3 healer, very talented and recognized by the association. As for the tie, he reveals he went to buy a suit for her school event, but everything was too expensive. The only thing his money could buy was that simple tie, which crushed him. He wonders if it would have been better not to go since he couldn't even pay for her schooling. With the hand on his stomach, he laughs at himself for still being hungry at a time like this. Kalho listens in silence, as the man says that if he doesn't eat, he won't even be able to get a job in reconstruction. Kalho approaches Khan in the kitchen, who is preparing the noodles for the customer, at the counter. He asks if he can slice him up thin, which leaves the young red-haired man completely horrified. Khan shouts, accusing Kalho of fattening him up all this time just to eat him later, but the chef explains it was just a joke and casually points to the skin Kyul had shed. The young man is offended by his appearance and shouts that he was planning to keep it as a souvenir. The next scene reveals an extra-large bowl of ramen with numerous pieces of meat on top. Kalho serves the dish to the hunter, saying it's on the house, while Khan panics in the background. The man tries a piece of the meat, still with a sad expression, but is quickly surprised. With that, he begins to cry silently as he eats, letting out all his frustration. After a while, the bowl is empty, and the hunter leaves a crumpled bill on the table. He thanks him not only for the food, but also for listening to his pathetic life story. Kalho just watches the man leave with a satisfied smile on his face. Mission accomplished. At the door, the hunter stops and remarks that life is full of hardships, but Kalho replies that for those who try, sometimes life rewards them with something good. He finishes by telling him to keep on living, because he'll always be there to serve him again. With a slight smile, the man leaves the restaurant, promising he'll definitely be back. Hiding behind the counter, Khan asks why nothing happened, but Kalho says he did what he could with the food. Khan looks at him seriously, wanting to know why he helps that stranger so much. Kalho doesn't answer, just looks away with a slightly somber, more distant expression. He pets Kyul and remarks that his own father used to have that same lonely look. Khan is a bit shocked, realizing that even someone like Kalho once had a father. The scene changes, and we see the hunter arriving at his modest apartment in the middle of the night. Inside, he finds his daughter, Majin, asleep, her phone still by her bedside. He notices she picked up the tie he dropped, and he hears her apologize. Half asleep, the girl apologizes again for her harsh words. He comforts her by stroking her head and says it's okay, that he's sorry too. Kneeling by her bed, he laments not being able to give his daughter a better life. But as he tucks her in, he silently promises that she will always have his unwavering love. The next morning, the hunter runs desperately through the city, shouting that he's going to get the last spot. Out of breath, he finally reaches the recruiter, who asks for his hunter card. The recruiter recognizes him on the spot and asks for his name, to which he replies Manhwa. He remembers that Manhwa was the one left behind in the monster zone last time. The guard tells him not to screw up this time since the mission is easier with no boss. With the entire cleanup team assembled, the leader gives a signal, and they enter the dimensional gate. In the distance, Kalho yawns as he leaves his house, seemingly starting a regular day. He goes down the stairs and walks through the streets as a truck flies past him. The Zengo team's vehicle disappears on the horizon, leaving the chef with a bad feeling, and he stands there thinking as if he senses something is wrong. Back at the dimensional gate, a deafening alarm starts to blare, and the rift's energy becomes unstable. Sang-hyu runs out of a base as someone announces that the gate has been sealed. It's explained that a collection team with weak hunters went in, and Mijin calls out for her father. But the worst happens when a hidden boss has appeared, trapping them all inside the dimensional gate. The team steps onto the dungeon's grass, a completely new and wild environment for them. Inside, the leader shouts to hold the formation, while Manhwa is captivated by the scenery. But unexpectedly, a strange dinosaur charges at him, its mouth open to attack. On reflect, he raises his arm and blocks the monster, taking the hit head-on. He throws the creature away, and is confused, feeling strong and not hungry today. A teammate notices his strength, but is soon startled by something else in the sky. High above, a rift in space begins to form, cracking the dungeon's reality. With that, the entire ground begins to shake violently, and everyone looks up in horror. A giant, clawed foot descends from the heavens, crushing the ground with a thud. The monster reveals itself completely. A colossal Tyrannosaurus roars, showing it's the hidden boss. Manhwa is in complete panic, unable to believe their terrible luck. We are told that a hidden boss is a second boss that appears from a sub-rift. And when that happens, most cleanup teams don't make it out alive. Everyone stares in horror at the creature, and Manhwa recognizes it as a Tyrex monster. The beast starts running toward them, and Manhwa shouts for everyone to move fast. He pauses for a moment, sweat dripping as he makes a risky decision. On the fallen monster, he sees a glowing mana stone. A unique opportunity right there that would pay the bills, and he could finally give his daughter, Majin, a better life. Ignoring the screams, he runs toward the prize, not thinking about the deadly consequences. With his heart pounding, he reaches out, thinking he just needs to grab that stone. But the tiger emerges from the shadows, its massive jaws open to devour him in one go. With a powerful swing, the monster throws him into the air as if he were nothing. Lying on the ground, he remembers Mijin's harsh words, wondering if this is what she saw. He saw himself as a desperate man, a pathetic father who couldn't protect the one he loved. Many memories of his daughter flash through his mind, from her graduation to the present. He remembers her smile as a child and her sadness at her mother's funeral. The image of her as a baby in his arms appears, and he can only apologize. But suddenly, a spark of pure determination ignites in his eyes, changing everything. He tries to stand up, shouting at himself that he can't die and leave her alone. With newfound strength, he faces the beast, now staggering and shouting that he won't die here. The beast digs its claws into the ground, preparing for its final attack. With a roar, the beast charges at Manhwa, who refuses to die in this place. He clenches his fists with determination, gathering all his remaining courage. With a furious shout, he swears that he cannot and will not die like this. On instinct, he blocks the monster's foot with a punch, unleashing a hidden power. A red energy explodes from his fist, enveloping his entire body. From a distance, the team leader sees the scene and shouts that it can only be a promotion. Manhwa himself is shocked, unable to believe he blocked the hidden boss alone. He realizes his fist doesn't hurt, and stranger still, he doesn't feel hungry. For the first time in his life, the constant hunger is gone. With that, he lunges forward and grabs the monster's jaw, blocking the creature's attack. Using his new strength, he confronts the giant dinosaur. Manhwa slides on the ground, and with a defiant look, he tells the monster to take this. He shouts for the beast to wait because the real fight is just beginning. Elsewhere, the elite team's weapons shatter, proving the enemy's strength. Sang-hyu arrives at the battlefield and asks if everyone has evacuated, wanting to know where the boss is. A hunter points in amazement, not believing that man stopped to class -2 Tigrex by himself. With a smile, Sang-hyu confirms the achievement, and calls him a cool old man, finding it incredible. Seeing Manhwa holding back the monster, he recognizes his potential and says he needs to get his contact information. A status window appears, revealing Manhwa's class is Glutton. It explains that this class reflects damage, acting as a super durable tank in combat. From a distance, Kaldo thinks that in Korea's system, this power is equivalent to a class -3 hunter. Seeing that Manhwa and Sang-hyu have things handled, he decides his mission here is done. The scene shifts to little Kyul yawning, showing her life is still going on peacefully. At the restaurant, a newspaper on the table announces that the hidden boss, Tiger Rex, has finally been defeated. The news reveals the hero of the battle was Manhwa, who became the MC and was promoted to class -3. The association acknowledged its mistake and promised to reevaluate. While Kaldo holds Kyul, he remarks that she has gotten a bit heavier, and she responds by calling him dad. He tries to deny it, saying he's not her father, but Kuhl hugs him tightly. With a smile, he accepts her affection as other news plays in the background. On the radio, a report talks about a wave of petty thefts occurring in the city. The culprit seems to have a taste for food and shiny things and has even stolen mana stones from the market. Calvo is lost in thought about the news while little Kuhl plays with water nearby. With a cute look, she approaches and offers a cup full of liquid to her dad. But suddenly Khan bursts into the kitchen and shouts desperately for Calvo not to drink it. With a disgusted look, he warns that the cup is full of dangerous bacteria. He explains that Kuhl learned from a picture book about wells for drinking. At that moment, a shiver runs down Calvo's spine as he understands that to her, the toilet looked like a well. In another scene, Agent Jae-woo Choi tries some kimchi, saying the dish is incredible. Calvo remarks that he used high-quality ingredients, which is why his food has a special taste. Suddenly the bell chimes, and Jae announces that more people are coming. He says he brought someone with him today, and a man appears from behind him. It's Captain Sang-hyu Kim, the famous spear mage in his leather jacket. Calvo bows to him, politely saying he's heard a lot about him. The association agent then introduces himself and recognizes Calvo as a spear mage. Sang-hyu comes to complain that the day was hard, full of never-ending meetings. Just then, Agent Jae points to the side and announces that the famous glutton is here. He excitedly explains that this is Manhwa Kim, the hero who turned the tide in the last raid. Manhwa smiles humbly and says he owes it all to the owner who helped him in his darkest moment, but Calvo replies that it's nothing, and he just hopes he'll come back to eat again. The newcomer then asks for his usual noodles, and Calvo prepares to cook. Seeing this, Sang-hyu gets a craving too and asks for the same dish, which pleases the chef. As soon as the food arrives, Manhwa tilts the ball back in one go, drinking every last drop of broth. Sang-hyu is speechless at the sight, impressed by his colleague's hunger and appetite. He then reminds Manhwa that he should go since he promised to visit his daughter's school. Calvo says they need to rest. And with that, the agent says his goodbyes and decides to leave. He observes their interaction from a distance, thinking the two seem to get along very well. But suddenly he realizes the restaurant has become very quiet. Finding it strange, he looks at the table and sees Sang-hyu slowly swaying, almost dozing off right there. And just like that, the captain falls completely asleep, napping after his meal. The scene changes to a flashback where Sang-hyu grabs a man by the collar and shouts at him furiously. He questions how the man could mess with a mythical creature. As the fire beast descends on the city, the monster, a giant wolf in flames, growls at the hunters, baring its teeth with pure hatred. With a piercing howl, the creature unleashes its power, preparing to destroy everything around it. Back in the present, Sang-hyu finally wakes up from his nap, a bit confused by the situation. He jumps up, seeing Calvo still there, calmly reading the newspaper. Calvo then notices the time and apologizes, but the chef tells him not to worry about it. The captain refuses food, saying he has no appetite as the radio starts talking about the robberies again. But then he changes his mind and asks for a drink, and Calvo quickly moves to fulfill the customer's request. Sang-hyu asks for soju and leaves the side dishes to the chef, who considers what to make. With the fresh ingredients he bought, he suggests sashimi, which surprises the captain. He confirms it's raw fish, explaining he got a very fresh batch of fish that morning. We learn that with the arrival of monsters, the oceans were also completely taken over. Therefore, once common fish have become rare delicacies, almost impossible to find. Instead, they now fish monster species like this young German fish. Calvo begins to slice the creature, saying its flavor is a cross between sea bass and halibut. As he prepares this, he confesses he doesn't like sashimi, but has learned to see it as a luxury. He then serves the dish, suggesting Sang-hyu try the seaweed noodles underneath. The captain is impressed but finds the combination of sashimi and seaweed noodles strange. Calvo assures him that he used special ingredients, and is sure he'll love the taste. With that, Sang-hyu picks up a piece with his chopsticks and eats it, feeling the crunch of the mixture. For a moment, a shock of flavor runs through his body, and he feels refreshed by the meal. He then takes a shot of soju in one go to cleanse his palate before the next bite. With a satisfied sigh, he says it really hit the spot. Sang-hyu finally relaxes, feeling like his exhausting work week is officially over. He mentions that he has 2 days off, his first vacation in almost 2 years of service. The life of hunting monsters every day has worn him out mentally, pushing him to his limits. The creatures pour out of the rifts endlessly, and he never has a moment to breathe. Looking at his spear, he remembers it's made of adamantium, a very valuable material. He says that when he graduated, he thought he could save the world with that weapon in hand. But in the real world, He quickly realized there was always someone stronger than him out there. Sang-hyu then stretches and complains that he's tired, and Kalho reveals that he's been there too. He reflects that for everyone, there comes a day you realize you're not so special, and the best solution for that, according to him, is to try to smile and have some good soju. Kalho tries to cheer the captain up, saying he's still one of the 5 guardians of Korea. But Sang-hyu confesses that the burden of carrying so many lives on his shoulders is sometimes too much. Seeing it's raining outside, Kalho asks if something specific happened to make him feel this way. The captain then confirms that yes, something did happen, and he remembers very well what occurred. Kalho then asks if he's ever heard of a mythical creature called a gumiho. The scene shifts to a flashback where the hunters are running in the rain, angry at whoever provoked the beast. A subordinate explains that the culprit was the hunter gentleman, which confuses Sang-hyu even more. As they prepare, the gumiho howls at the sky, showing all its rage. Back in the present, Kalho explains that these creatures are mythical beasts with no defined rank. He says they live in seclusion and, for 30 years, they have never attacked humans first. They are very hard to find, but someone went and disturbed the peace of one of them. In the flashback, Sang-hyu finally finds the man he was looking for in the rain, the one called Gentleman. Without hesitation, he grabs him and shouts, demanding to know what he did to cause all this. The man in the hat just looks at him coldly, completely unconcerned by the threat. Sang-hyu is shocked by the culprit's identity as his partner shouts his name. The gumiho lets out a furious roar, its red flames illuminating the entire night sky. The beast then jumps toward a building, and someone shouts for everyone to get into formation. Sang-hyu leads the attack, shouting that they will go all out against the monster. The creature then focuses energy into its tails, preparing for a devastating attack. A giant fireball forms, vibrating with a power that makes the ground shake. Suddenly, the gumiho unleashes its attack, and a rain of fire falls upon the entire city. The beast's eyes glow with a hypnotic light, paralyzing anyone who looks directly at them. As a result, several hunters lose consciousness and drop their weapon, falling into a deep trance. A subordinate shouts not to look at the flames, warning that the beast's attack is coming. The fireball hits a hunter's shield, which shatters from the impact. Sang-hyu and his partner jump back at the last second, narrowly escaping the explosion. The woman then activates a spell on her shield, creating a blue protective circle. With the spell, several magic shields appear and block the gumiho's fireballs. Seeing an opening, the captain prepares his spear, now glowing with a purple aura of power. He then uses the shields as platforms and attacks the monster from multiple angles at once. The hunter dives down with his spear in hand, preparing for the final blow against the beast. With a furious shout, he orders the creature to leave in peace once and for all. The spearhead cuts through the air and pierces the gumiho's neck, which roars in pain. The monster's eyes are filled with tears. Sang-hyu notices the creature's gaze, but it's too late to pull back, and Sang-hyu strikes. Back in the present, he reveals that the battle lasted all night without rest. And when they finally defeated the monster, amidst the screams, he heard something crying. Laying on the ground, he found a baby fox curled up and crying in the rain. He was shocked to realize they had killed a mother and this was her newborn cub. It's revealed that gentlemen's eagles had hunted the cub, and the mother was just reacting to that. Sang-hyu laments, saying it was a mistake, but even the best students make mistakes. But he adds that they, as guardians, cannot afford such mistakes. Sadly, he reveals that the cub also had to be killed in the end. Kalho comforts him, saying they had no choice, closing the gumiho case forever. With a sheepish smile, Sang-hyu seems to agree with his friend, feeling a little better. He then gets up to go, remarking that he talked too much because he felt so comfortable. But Kalho also gets up and asks for another plate of sashimi, but this time to go. He says he'll make it no problem. As the starry night covers the city outside, the scene then shifts to the past with the hunter gentleman walking through the dark streets. Sang-hyu walks as he remembers Gentleman. We see Sang-hyu confronting him, shouting about what he was thinking, messing with a newborn. He screams that an apology doesn't fix anything because many lives were at stake. At the end of the argument, the captain turns his back with a defeated expression. He walks slowly through the destruction, carrying the weight of that night on his shoulders. Back in the present, Kalho remembers the gumiho he met on his continent. It's explained that they never attacked humans, but he still killed 2. He regretted it both times because those are memories one can never forget. In the distance, Sang-hyu walks through the ruined city, carrying the sashimi to eat at home. He opens the package of sashimi, the only comfort he has from that difficult night. But these memories remain like scars with the screams always echoing in his head. Suddenly, He hears footsteps approaching, and his hunter instincts immediately kick in. It's as if he's reliving it all over again, with the flames forever reminding him of his mistake. From the shadows, a small paw appears, moving slowly toward the hunter. It's the Gumiho cub, now with 3 tails, approaching with its own flame. Sang-hyu then reveals the truth. He couldn't kill the cub that rainy night. We see a flashback to the past with the tiny newborn curled up and crying in the heavy rain. He doesn't know if it was because of its mother's gaze, but he couldn't do it. Squatting down, he laments being a weak guardian, while the cub eats the sashimi. The captain then asks how many mana stones it stole to already have 3 tails, but the little fox ignores the scolding and tries to steal the food bag, acting on instinct. Sang-hyu instinctively grabs its tail, and the Gumiho gets angry, baring its teeth at him. The creature then attacks him with fireballs, showing it's already quite powerful. He narrowly dodges and tries to reason with the creature, asking for a minute to listen. He warns that the association will take action and he can't protect it in the city anymore. Sang-hyu then throws his spear to the ground and tells the Gumiho to go. With a heavy heart, he says goodbye as the fox cries, not wanting to go. But finally, he shouts for the child to get lost, and the Gumiho leaves, running into the forest. Sang-hyu smiles melancholically, knowing he did the right thing by letting the cub go. He stands alone in the night, spear in hand, and shouts one last time for the Gumiho to go. The fox then runs across the city's rooftops, looking for a safe place to hide. But suddenly, it stops as if it smells a very familiar scent nearby. It's startled to see little Kuel waving from a window, as if calling to it. Curious, it gets closer and sees the little dragon calling it Dad again. The creature's soft fur glows, and the Gumiho falls to the ground, completely enchanted by the little girl. It understands that since she is cute and harmless, little Kuel can only be a friend. The two then start jumping on the bookshelf, playing together as Kuelho enters the room. The chef finally realizes that it's the Gumiho he has been sensing around his house. He asks if the fox is hungry, and it nods, confirming immediately. With a smile, Kuelho says it seems it has already eaten somewhere, alluding to the sashimi. Just then, his elf butler, Hisam, appears from a dimensional gate, asking what he wants now. Kuelho then points to the Gumiho and asks him to get a mana stone from his collection. The servant quickly obeys, handing the stone to his master Kuelho Kang. Kuelho says a class -1 mana stone should help, and the Gumiho snatches it immediately. Without hesitation, the fox bites the crystal, shattering it into pieces in its mouth. With that, a cosmic energy envelops the creature as it absorbs all the stone's power. By the window, Kuelho bids farewell to the creature, now ready to finally leave. The Gumiho then turns and runs, disappearing through the window like a small fiery comet. It stops on a rooftop, looking back one last time at the city it left behind. The creature remembers Sang-hyu, thinking that despite everything, it knew the hunter was a good person. But with tears in its eyes, it laments, thinking it will never see him again. In the distance, Sang-hyu lies on the grass, thinking the Gumiho's flames are too conspicuous there. With a sad look, he hopes the creature will never return to that place. And from a rooftop, the Gumiho howls at the moon, a final farewell before disappearing. The scene changes to show us the National Hunter Association, which oversees everything in the country. It explains that they have appointed 5 class -2 hunters as official guardians. Among them are the Ice Witch, Sang-hyu Kim, Gentleman, and the Queen of Blades. And alongside them, the association also dispatches class -1 hunters for the most secret missions. At the top of the hierarchy, we are introduced to the association's president, In Soo-hyu, the most powerful man in the country. In his office, he complains about the heat to Cheon, the blue-haired sorceress, who silently observes him. The guardian, known as the Ice Witch, asks if he wants some ice to cool down, but he refuses, saying that's how summer works, and quickly changes the subject to a more serious matter. He mentions hearing that the mandragoras have disappeared, and she confirms the information immediately. It's explained that a mandragora is a plant monster that releases an extremely dangerous toxin. And to make matters worse, its scream can kill low-level hunters and civilians in seconds. She reports that 13 of them have disappeared without trace, as if they simply walked away. The president laughs at the idea, saying vegetables don't have legs to run around. He then decides to call someone named Gabby to investigate, and Cheon is startled by the name. Jin-soo confirms that the night cat is back and will handle this mysterious case. In the distance, little Kuel stretches, waking up from another peaceful night's sleep. Next to Kuelho, she notices Kun isn't there. But she realizes her dad is having a nightmare, and gently tries to wake him. With her little paws, she rubs his face and calls to him, trying to pull him out of the bad dream. But soon after, her stomach growls, and she can only think of one thing: food. She gets out of bed and goes into the kitchen, trying her best to reach a chair there. With a few clumsy jumps, the little dragon finally climbs up, ready to hunt. From there, she looks into the fridge and finds a mandragora, a very strange plant monster. Not knowing what it is, she wonders if it's an old man. Startled, the mandragora lets out a piercing scream that echoes through the house. But her hunger is stronger, and Kuhl simply takes a bite of the monster without a second thought. The taste is horrible, and she spits it all out, grimacing and throwing the plant away. Just then, Kaltho and Kun arrive in the kitchen, and the chef looks at her with disapproval. The little dragon faints with a full stomach, and Kaltho warns that she will be scolded later. He then picks Kuhl up and asks Kun where he's been for the past few days. Kun says he was studying the rifts, but he only found monsters he already knew from his span. Kaltho becomes pensive, and the word monster seems to give him an idea. He teases Kun, who gets angry and shouts that dragons are a noble and superior species. He then realizes it's not impossible for a dragon, or something worse, to appear from the rifts. With that, he asks Kun to let him know if anything strange appears during his research. Kun asks if he can control the rifts, but Kaltho says he doesn't know how. He also asks how he returned to this world, but Kaltho evades the question, saving it for another time. He changes the subject, saying he needs to go shopping to prepare dinner. After all, summer calls for a more special and refreshing meal. The scene shifts to the outskirts of Shinshan, where a magical barrier protects the entire city. There, the Ice Witch investigates the area, but finds no trace of the monsters. She then looks at a building, confirming it's the place she was told about. But suddenly, a green energy surrounds her from all sides in a surprise attack. The sorceress prepares an ice spell for defense, but her hand is caught instantly. A clawed hand interrupts the spell, brushing past her face with a cold touch. Just then, a woman appears behind her, radiating the same green energy aura. With a confident smile, she says, "The other must be the famous Ice Witch of Shinshan." The woman introduces herself as Gabby Lee, the Night Cat, a class -1 hunter. Cheyenne is confused and introduces herself, but Gabby asks her to just use her name. The Night Cat praises the sorceress, but asks how many years she has been active. When she hears it's been 10 years, Jan's jaw drops, thinking it's impossible. She can't believe the woman crossed a sealed barrier without leaving a single trace. She's also shocked by the youthful appearance of the veteran, who has been a hunter for 30 years. Gabby shakes the sorceress's hand and reintroduces herself, saying this is her first time here. She then asks for a summary of the situation, and Cheyenne explains about the missing mandragoras. The sorceress says the barrier was created by a class -4 hunter from her support team. Gabby deduces that to cross it, the culprit must be at least a class -3 hunter. To begin the investigation, she asks for the largest mercenary guild in the area. Cheyenne replies that it's the Temple Guild, and Gabby decides to go there to eat. In the distance, Sang-Hyu feels a shiver, as if someone just talked about him. The scene cuts to the restaurant where little Kuhl is sleeping soundly in Kun's arms, looking adorable. The young red-haired man is completely captivated, saying she's so lovely. Kun is completely smitten with Kuhl, saying she definitely inherited her cuteness from him. He's so focused on her that he doesn't realize Kaltho is watching the whole scene from a distance. The red-haired man is startled and asks how long he's been there, and the chef says he saw everything. Embarrassed, Kun tries to act cool, but Kaltho tells him there's no need to be ashamed. He then goes into the kitchen, grabs a watermelon, and asks the young man to fill a pot with water. Kun has never seen this fruit before, and even asks if the red part is meat, but Kaltho denies it. Then, the red-haired man picks up a chicken and asks what it is since it doesn't look like a monster. Kaltho laughs and explains it's a chicken, recalling they also exist in a span. But the real shock comes when Kun holds a mandragora, not believing what he's seeing. The chef says he just found them lying around, but Kun warns that they are extremely dangerous. It's explained that they are full of dark energy, which is why they have a cooling effect. Besides, they are crunchy and sweet, pairing well with many different dishes. Kun asks what the filling will be, and Kaltho replies that he'll use rice, garlic, and mandragora. After a while, the pot is boiling, and soon they'll have a hot chicken soup. But as they are cooking, the bell chimes again, and a customer enters the empty restaurant. At the door, Sang-Hyu, Cheyenne, and Gabby arrive, and the Night Cat immediately praises the smell of the food. Kaltho welcomes them, and with a push, Ashai Kun also greets the group. Sang-Hyu says that guests are a blessing and introduces the young red-haired man as his nephew. The chef offers them chicken soup, and Gabby is excited because she hasn't had chicken in a long time, but she quickly refuses, saying she's a vegetarian, which makes Kalho wonder what to serve her. The chicken soup and mandragora kimchi are served at the table, looking delicious. The ice witch picks up a chicken leg, dips it in some salt, and prepares for the first bite. She then tastes the juicy meat, and her serious expression completely changes with the flavor. Sang-hyo also praises the kimchi, and both are impressed by the quality of the meal. Seeing their excitement, Polo turns to Gabby and asks if she's really a vegetarian. He says he doesn't have many options, but offers her a watermelon, which catches her attention. With sparkling eyes, the hunter accepts immediately, asking for a piece of the fruit. It's explained that there are many ways to enjoy watermelon, and today, he will try something new. With his knife, he scoops out all the red flesh and cuts it into small pieces on the cutting board. To finish, he adds strawberries and kiwis, creating the perfect summer dessert. He then places the fruit in the watermelon rind, preparing the base for the dessert. Next, the chef pours in sparkling soda to make the mixture fizzy. With that, the watermelon punch or hua is ready, looking incredibly refreshing. Seeing this, the ice witch decides to help and creates ice cubes with her magic. Kalho explains to the night cat that the girl is the city's guardian sorceress, but Cheyenne complains, saying she hates the witch nickname they gave her. It's explained she got the nickname in school when she got angry and froze everything in a fight. She laughs at the situation, while Kalho is surprised to have so many famous hunters in his restaurant. He then stares at the night cat, analyzing the powerful presence of the class -1 hunter. He thinks she's as strong as a guardian, and he's never seen such beauty since a span. With a smile, Gabby thanks him for the meal, which impresses Kalho even more. After everyone has eaten, the remaining watermelon bowl is completely empty on the table. Kun then remarks to Kalho that the woman who just left was very beautiful, and he agrees. He says she's too beautiful to be human, with an almost unreal beauty. It's then revealed that Gabby is actually a fairy, which explains her perfect appearance. Kalho explains that he knew she wasn't human because his fairy skills confirmed it. Kun then asks if she recognized them, but the chef assures him that she doesn't have any sensory magic. With this, he's certain that it's not just monsters coming through the dimensional rifts. With a somber tone, he thinks that these other species might be plotting something in secret. Suddenly, he calls for Kun, who turns, startled by the chef's call. Kalho says he'll make something unique for him, which makes the young red-haired man curious. Putting on an apron, he tells the young man to grab a spoon because they are going to make a special watermelon soju. In the distance, the trio of hunters arrives at the guild, but finds no clues about the thief. Sang-hyo then teases Gabby, calling her grandma, and she retorts by calling him kid. The captain grumbles that there are no witnesses or victims, and no one could have recognized that, but Cheyenne says her team is monitoring everything and they will see anything. With a mocking smile, Sang-hyo jokes that maybe someone just ate all the plants. Gabby ends the discussion, but her expression shows the case still makes her very suspicious. She says she has no proof, but her intuition tells her something strange is happening in the city. As they leave, Sang-hyo complains that they came all this way just to get shocking news. In the end, Sang-hyo becomes pensive, unable to believe that Tae Jong-cheon is retiring from the temple guild. The scene changes, and an elderly man stares at the starry sky, looking tired. He reflects on how the world has changed with asphalt replacing the grass of the past. Even the smell of flowers is gone, replaced by the smell of monster blood everywhere. Despite being exhausted, he orders his team to go ahead and protect all the survivors. Finally, he gathers with the guild and informs everyone that the case has finally been solved. The next day, Kalho reads the newspaper and sees the news about the temple guild. Little Kyul wakes up and runs to hug her dad's leg. Delighted, he picks her up and praises her look for the day, which is just a bow on her ear. Kyul then tries to imitate him, pretending to read the weather forecast in the paper, but soon, hunger strikes, and the little dragon's stomach starts to rumble loudly. She then starts demanding food, mixing her data cries with a cute roar. Kalho wonders what to eat because if they eat, it has to be something delicious. He thinks that life is short and we only have 3 chances a day to eat well. The chef then pinches Kyul's cheek because a dragon's life is not short at all. He decides to cook white rice because brown rice doesn't make a difference to him anymore. With that, he asks little Kyul to go wake up her brother, who is still asleep. The little dragon runs to Kun's room, where he is sleeping soundly in bed, snoring. Without mercy, she jumps right on his stomach, and he wakes up with a start. From the kitchen, Kalho hears a cry of pain and just smiles slightly. Mission accomplished. The scene cuts to breakfast. a delicious bibimbap with eggs and wild vegetables. Khan is amazed by the smell of the food and immediately suggests mixing everything in the bowl. With everything ready, the three of them start eating the bibimbap, enjoying their breakfast. The flavor explodes in their mouths, and the meal becomes a moment of pure happiness. After a while, the bowls are empty. Kalo remarks that Kul has been acting strange because she faints every time she finishes eating. Khan explains that this is normal and she is eating and sleeping so she can grow. He's excited because soon they'll know which class the little dragon has awakened. But as they are talking, the bell chimes, and Kalvo goes to greet the new customer. A young man walks in, smelling the rice, wearing a stylish white jacket. Kalvo offers him a bowl, but the man asks for instant noodles first if possible. With a smile, the chef guesses that he likes cold rice, and the young man confirms it. But suddenly, the customer sees the newspaper, and his expression changes when he sees the news about the guild. His jacket has the temple symbol, revealing he is a guild member. He leaves without a word, and Kaldo just watches with the restaurant's facade in the background. The young man then eats the kimchi, and praises it, saying the taste is on another level. Suddenly, Agent J and Manho Kim enter the restaurant, greeting Kaldo at the door. Mando refuses a meal, saying he just stopped by to say hello, but the agent seems happy. Kaldo serves a glass of water, remarking that it must be tough with this heat. Manho jokes that his stamina has improved, and the chef assumes it's because of the mandragoras he ate. The agent then remarks that the spearmage must be sad about the news. He asks if the chef has heard about the temple guild and the captain's retirement. The young man is shocked by the news, and the agent says it's a shame, because he was highly respected. Kaldo then asks what happened, and Jay mentions the incident from 10 years ago. It was saying he's first year in the position, and the invasion claimed the lives of 4 of the 5 guardians. The Jongcheon, a classman is one hunter with immeasurable power, was the only one left. A natural-born leader, he saved everyone during the Great Invasion, becoming a respected hero. The association's president, Dian Su-yu, had been expecting this day, but he still felt sad about it. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and he says to come in, already knowing who the guest is. The door opens, and Taejong stands there, greeting the president after a long time. The two then sit down to talk with the sunset illuminating the room. The president asks if he really has to retire, and Taejong confirms his serious decision. Dian Su then asks for the reason, and he simply replies that the time has finally come. Angry, the president grabs him and shouts, reminding him that he built that guild from the ground up. He says that he was by his side from the beginning, but Taejong's gaze remains firm. Calmly, the captain places his cup on the table and asks his old friend to listen. He explains that no one builds anything alone, because they fought together to create the world they have today. Now he just feels tired, and wants to finally let go of the burden he has carried for many years. With that, he says his goodbyes and leaves, leaving the president alone with his thoughts. Jin-soo then reflects, imagining that young Sang-hyu must be suffering a lot from the news. We learn that the successor has already been chosen. A promising classman is 3 hunter named Hee-kan. Outside, Taejong looks out at the night and tells himself it was a wonderful day, but he soon laughs at himself, wondering if he's so old that he thinks things like that. Just then, the young hunter from the Temple Guild is waiting for him on the street next to his motorcycle. The scene shifts to the restaurant where Kello is slicing more blocks of mandragora kimchi. Suddenly, Sang-hyu walks in with Taejong. Sang-hyu remarks that he didn't even know this place existed, then asks with a smile what today's menu is. Kello replies that today they are serving family-style dishes, which makes Sang-hyu curious. The chef thinks about the captain's age, and decides to take a chance, offering him the dish anyway. Taejong sits down, and the word veteran seems to perfectly fit his aura. He says he's in no hurry and the chef can take all the time he needs to cook. With a smile, Paolo turns and goes into the kitchen, ready to start cooking. The young hunter says his goodbye, saying he just stopped by to show the old man the way. Taejong apologizes for the young man's immaturity, but Paolo says he's a guardian nonetheless. The veteran then asks if he can smoke, and the chef allows it since there are no other customers. With a cigarette on his lips, he praises the smell of rice coming from the rice cooker. He remarks that it's been a long time since he smelled that, which makes him nostalgic. Paolo reflects on nostalgia, and how everyone remembers something. He then decides to make a special dish, one that brings back those good memories. We learn that he's going to make jigae, and that everyone has their own special recipe for it. The chef then makes his soybean paste and vegetables, cooking everything slowly. To complete the feast, he fries a couple of Velta eggs, and a delicious piece of German fish. The family meal is ready with rice, fish, soup, and the special mandragora kimchi. The veteran stares at the hot plate, a fragrant smell awakening an old memory in him. He then tastes the broth, and the flavor surprises him, as if it were something very familiar. Next, he scoops a spoonful of white rice, which looks perfectly cooked. With a smile, he says it tastes like the food he used to eat at home. But he remembers it's been 30 years since he moved to Seoul and the memories have faded. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and he didn't even realize life had gone by like that. He says that back then, everyone wanted to go to the capital because it was the only way to survive. The image of a road at night comes to his mind, a past he will never forget. The memory of the Great Exodus 30 years ago, and the final Great Invasion 10 years ago. Kelho confirms with the veteran who remembers the time of the Great Exodus. We learn that 30 years ago, monsters appeared and destroyed nations all over the globe. Entire cities were wiped off the map, and countless lives were lost in the chaos. Back then, Taejong awakened as a hunter and, for the first time, took up a sword to fight. With his new strength, he led the survivors from his hometown to the capital, Seoul. Their union gave birth to the Temple Guild, a safe haven for all hunters. With the city rebuilt, the world began to move forward again, and the Guardians appeared. But what was once Korea was now only the central area of Seoul. And just when everything seemed to be improving, a new and terrible threat appeared 10 years ago. It was the day the boss-level monsters descended from the sky, bringing destruction. The Great Invasion began, and Sang-hyu was hit by a surprise attack. His spear collided with the monster's mouth. Sang-hyu was thrown back by the power of a dragon. Defenseless, the creature then let out a piercing roar that echoed across the battlefield. Sang-hyu, still a rookie, was desperate amidst the chaos and shouted that he didn't want to die. Taejong appeared at the last second and blocked the attack, protecting one of the fallen hunters. He then offered his hand to the young Sang-hyu and told him to get up and keep fighting. The boy trembled in fear, his face covered in blood, completely paralyzed with terror. The veteran understood his fear, because the only desire was simply to run. But he encouraged him, saying that what was important was to take a step forward even in fear. He then asked for the young man's name, who replied that he was Sang-hyu Kim, his voice still trembling. Taejong recognized him as the new guardian, but Sang-hyu warned him about the approaching monster. The captain then turned and told the rookie to watch closely what he was about to do. With a swift movement, he swung his sword and prepared for the giant dragon's attack. With a single slash, he unleashed a golden energy that shot toward the monster. The blow cut through the sky and hit its mark, splitting the creature and several other enemies in two. Sang-hyu was speechless, seeing the veteran standing amidst the destruction, covered in blood. Taejong then turned with a smile and said that this was the path they had to walk. The young Sang-hyu stared at the captain, and the image of that hero was forever etched in his memory. Back in the present, he takes off his helmet with the determined look of someone who will honor that legacy. Sang-hyu climbs a hill and says this is a good place for his master to rest. He then turns and runs, ready to clear the entire area and ensure safety. With his spear in hand, he swears he won't leave a single monster behind. He plants his weapon in the ground, saying this is where his captain will rest. He thinks it's the least he can do to repay the veteran who saved his life. With tears in his eyes, he curses himself, unable to contain the pain of losing his friend. Kneeling on his knees, he wonders why there are no monsters for him to vent his anger on. He feels helpless, as there's nothing he can do to change what happened. Back at the restaurant, Keldo asks if the captain has any regrets in his life. Taejong puts out his cigarette and confesses that every day was a regret because they had to be perfect. To protect someone, to keep people alive, they needed to survive at all costs. He adds that there was no room for error because one mistake could cost precious lives. Kaolo then understands where young Sang-hyu's maturity comes from, having learned from the best. He reflects that despite all the fatigue, the captain managed to raise a worthy successor. Taejong then stands up and confirms he's returning to his hometown, ending his journey. Kaolo reflects that he can understand the life the captain lived, because he also lived for others. Taejong tries to pay, but the chief says the meal is on the house. He explains that he always pays for those returning home as a sign of respect. Kaolo just smiles, finding the place strange, but in a good and welcoming way. As he leaves, Taejong thanks him for the meal, and asks the chief to take care of the reckless kid, but Kaolo replies that there's no need, because he's already a great guardian. With a smile, the veteran agrees, acknowledging the great hunter Sang-hyu has become. He almost calls him son, but holds back and just tells Kaolo not to worry. With a final goodbye, he says it was a good visit, and the chief bids farewell to the customer. The captain walks alone on the road, the bright moon illuminating his steps in the darkness. From the restaurant's doorway, Kalho thinks that old soldiers don't die, they just fade away. The scene cuts to Taejong speeding down the highway on his motorcycle, disappearing into the dawn. He finally reaches his destination and takes off his helmet with a look of relief and peace. Looking at his hometown, he smiles and says, his voice full of emotion, hum. In the distance, Sang-hyu climbs a mountain, ready to honor his master's legacy. With tears in his eyes, Sang-hyu says goodbye to the old man, asking him to take care. He then starts his motorcycle and disappears into the darkness of the forest, following his own path. But suddenly, the little Gimyo appears, in the same spot, its fiery tails hovering. It thinks about the human who left, and the other who gave it the shiny power stone. With a smile, it remembers that cuteness means harmless and friendly. It then looks at the city, and welcomes its new cute human, Taejong. The scene cuts, and we see Kalho in a nightmare, hearing his old name, Deo, calling him. Suddenly, he wakes up with a start, shouting, "I'll be fine," as he gasps for air. But the nightmare continues, and his image is distorted as if reality itself is breaking. He finds himself back in his world where he was a knight facing the Demon King and his generals. One of the enemies asks if he's the one who summoned him to this dark and desolate kingdom. With a magic circle, the demon tries to attack, but the knight blocks it with his bare hands. Even as the magic crackles, he says he doesn't understand a single word the monster is saying. With that, he clenches his fist and shatters his gauntlet, unleashing his power. A purple light explodes from the magic circle, revealing the true power he had been hiding. In the nightmare, Kalho counters with a golden power, facing the enemy's purple spells. With a punch, he shatters the magic barrier, preparing for the final blow of the battle. Suddenly, Kalho wakes up with a start, his heart bounding from the nightmare he just had. He then puts a hand on his forehead, still dazed, as he hears birds chirping outside, but a noise in the living room startles him, and he finds Khan on the floor, looking terrified of something. Khan shouts that his aura feels like a murderer's, and asks what he was planning to do. Kalho apologizes immediately, realizing the energy from his nightmare had unintentionally leaked out. He laments that it's been 10 years since the war ended, but the memories still haunt him. He thinks the dream was because of the news he heard about Seoul's great invasion, but he's suspicious because it seems too coincidental to dream of the very day he faced the Demon King. Nevertheless, he looks out the window, suspecting their paths would never cross again in this world. At home, little Kuel calls for Kalho, who watches her with his arms crossed, not understanding. He then sees the wall completely covered in drawings, realizing she's just a child. Kalho kneels to look at the drawings, and Kuel says that today's special is chicken. He points to one of the scribbles, saying it's a chicken, which confuses her. He then questions another drawing, wondering if it's a fish or a mermaid with hands. He gently picks up the little creature to talk to her more easily. She then rubs her face against his and calls him dad, completely breaking Kalho's tough facade. He then makes a deal, saying he'll make chicken if she cleans up the mess on the wall. But suddenly Khan bursts in, shouting Kalho's name and demanding to know what happened. Kalho takes the opportunity and tells Khan to teach Kuel how to clean properly. The little girl happily calls Kalho dad, which makes Khan jealous of their closeness. Unfazed, Kalho announces he's going to the market and leaves the house in his care. The scene changes to a bustling street with many stalls and a festive atmosphere. He appears buying a lot of chicken, thinking it's for someone with a big appetite. The vendor remarks that today is his lucky day because everyone on the street is in a festive mood. The vendor tells Kalho to go to the square, because a special event is happening there. Suddenly, a metallic sound echoes through the street as a huge machine is activated, and then a giant golem appears among the crowd, who scream with excitement at the novelty. In the crowd, Kalho observes everything until Gabby greets him from a distance. She approaches and says she came to see the test of the new model, Augur. She explains that it's a mana-controlled golem, and Kalho remembers seeing them before. He reflects that these machines are strong against giant monsters, but have very clear limitations. The biggest problem is that they are too slow to hit any small, fast enemies. Curious, he asks if being controlled means there's someone inside piloting everything. Kalho then realizes the pilot is Gearwar. One of the only 3 Klessmen is 1 hunters. We learn that to pilot it, one must be able to withstand the mana energy, a rare ability. Just then, the pilot appears on a big screen, Golem Master Hun Kim, who happily waves to the crowd. Kalho thinks that technology is good, but too expensive to be truly profitable. With nothing more to see, he says goodbye to the woman, who asks if his restaurant is open. With a smile, she says she's glad to hear it and promises to stop by sometime. The day ends in the city. and as the sun sets, our hero finally returns home. But when he opens the door, he sees a puddle of water and a strange figure in the middle of the living room. It's a water spirit, and untying, standing there with little Kuel. Khan appears, laughing, and asks whose spirit just appeared out of nowhere. With a grand gesture, he announces that Kuel's class has been confirmed as an elementalist. The red-haired man explains that her mother was a blue dragon, which is why she summoned a water spirit. At that moment, Kuel hugs the Undying, calling her mom and leaving Kalho confused. Awkwardly, Khan asks if it's a high-level spirit, and Kalho confirms immediately. He thinks it's been a long time since he saw a spirit in a non-combat form, and that they are surreal. We learn that spirits come from another dimension, and are divided into 4 types. With that, 4-dimensional gates appear, showing the complexity of this universe. They are the realms of demons, spirits, Aspan, and Earth, all interconnected. Kalho just stands there trying to process the amount of new information in his head. He then changes the subject and asks if Khan taught her how to clean up her mess. The Undying then uses her power and, together with Kuel, cleans all the dirt in a moment. Kalho decides that since she has awakened, it's time for a little party for Kuel. In the kitchen, he starts preparing the ingredients, removing the plastic wrap from a bowl of chicken. He then floors the pieces and explains that tonight's main course is fried chicken. We learn that about 30 years ago, there was a fried chicken craze with many variations. With everything ready, he drops the pieces into the hot oil, which immediately start frying. But in the end, the foundation for all of them was always the classic fried chicken. When he brings the food out, Khan goes crazy for the aroma, and Kuel prepares to eat. She takes a bite of a crispy chicken leg, savoring her first real meal. Kalho just watches her reaction, waiting to see what she'll think. With her face covered in grease, she shouts with joy, loving the taste of the chicken. Seeing this, Khan shouts that he can't take it anymore, and he needs to eat right now. But Kalho gets serious, and warns that in his world, fried chicken reveals a person's soul. With a dark look, he stares at Khan, and asks which piece he'll eat first. The red-haired man gets nervous, gulping and not understanding the pressure that's building. Finally, he picks up the chicken neck and asks how that could say anything about him. Seeing his reaction, Kalho laughs and says he was just kidding, telling everyone to eat. But Kuel eats everything so fast that Khan doesn't even get a taste. And Kalho says he expected that. He grabs a can of beer and says it goes much better with chicken than soju. With their cups in hand, they toast, celebrating another day gone by. Khan finally takes a bite, and his jaw drops, saying it's amazing. Then, Kalho perfectly debones a wing, shocking the red-haired man with his skill. He complains that there are bones everywhere, and Kalho just laughs at the whole scene. Suddenly, a loud noise startles little Kuel, who looks at the window, not understanding. And unexpectedly, a display of fireworks explodes in the sky, surprising the whole group. Kalho realizes the festival is still going on while Khan thinks it's a war. He picks Kuel up and explains it's fireworks, calming her with the news. Seeing her joy, he thinks that Kuel has never been outside and asks when she'll change her form. Khan replies that it won't be long, and Kalho asks if she'll also breathe fire. With a smirk, he confirms that she will and says he can't wait for that day. Finally, he dreams of buying her clothes and shoes and taking her to see the world. Elsewhere, the new golem's test continues with a giant drill piercing through metal, but the pilot complains that the machine is too heavy and the mana isn't working properly. Exhausted, Hun Kim, the robot's pilot, goes to the locker room to finally rest, but he's surprised by a mysterious woman who informs him this is the men's locker room. He teases her, asking if she's getting old to justify her nickname. Hun Kim complains that he's hungry, but the woman says she has chosen a good restaurant. He teases her again about her age, but she ignores it and says the place is in Seomin. She then remarks that Captain Taejon has retired, and saying Hugh is not handling it well. Hun Kim says it's a shame, but it was time for the captain to get a well-deserved rest. With a sad look, Gabby laments not having a hometown to return to one day. Changing the subject, she asks about the new mana stone, and he says its density is insane. He confirms that it came from the new dungeon, but there's something very strange about that place. Gabby explains that there are no monsters, just the sky that starts to glow with a strange color. Just then, a necklace starts to glow as the dark sky shows something is about to fall. The scene cuts to our protagonist, who is sensing this energy and waiting for what's to come. Butler Kasem reveals that he has been taking care of the relics since many were lost in the war. In the past, dragons trembled in fear, running away at the mere mention of Miro Lycus's name. Back in the present, Kalho uses a detector and confirms there is manna in the air. Other hunters also arrive at the mine, recognizing the place's great potential. The cow, though, feels the detector is broken and understands that the energy here is too strong. Just then, a large crack appears in the sky, confirming that something terrible is about to happen. The rift shatters completely, releasing a red energy and opening a dimensional gate. From within, a huge metal portal begins to appear out of thin air, and from it emerge several strange creatures that look like giants, angry boars. Below, the hunters panic, and their leader shouts for them to hold a defensive formation. He orders the workers to be evacuated, warning that these are evolved combat monsters. The team creates multiple magic barriers, preparing for the impact of the monster horde, but one of the captains is taken by surprise, receiving a direct hit from one of the beasts. Seeing his captain in danger, Sang Hyu Kim charges at the monster with all his might. Sang Hyu Kim is shocked, unable to believe the scene unfolding before him. With brute force, the monsters slam into the ground, sending the hunters flying. Amidst the chaos, all he feels is pure panic as the sounds of battle echo around him. He then spots the horde's leader and shouts for his team to focus on saving the wounded. From the sky, the leader's power core vibrates with a terrifying energy, crackling with lightning. Below, one of the hunters is completely surrounded with no way out. With a roar, the monster attacks the front line's shield, shattering the team's defense. Another hunter is taken by surprise and screams in pain as he's attacked from behind. Desperate, the leader realizes he has to make a difficult decision right now. He considers retreating to save the workers, sacrificing his men on the front lines. But the image of his fallen comrades weighs heavily on his conscience, and he hesitates. He then remembers what an old man always said about living each day with regret. He wonders how many times the old man felt this fear and had to make choices like this. The desire to run from the fight is overwhelming, but he knows he can't do it. The memory fades, and he understands that taking a step forward, even in fear, is what matters. Full of determination, he swears to show his worth to his old captain. He then shouts that his comrades are waiting and he'll take the front line. Spear in hand, he fearlessly charges toward the giant monster horde. His attack is a spectacular sight, cutting through multiple enemies at once with his electric spear. Without taking a step back, he continues to carve a path through the mess. But the battle is long, and he realizes his mana has finally run out in the middle of the fight. Despite this, the horde's boss keeps advancing, giving him no time to breathe. One of his men shouts a warning, and he shoots a ball of energy at the monster. Alone, he faces the beast and says that his team is right behind him, trusting in him. With all his remaining strength, he grips his spear, ready to continue the fight. Despite being injured, he shouts with confidence, saying he'll open a path for everyone. He then jumps with all his might, diving down with his spear aimed right at the giant boar's head. The blow hits its mark, causing a purple energy explosion that engulfs the monster. The force of the attack is so great that it creates a tunnel of energy across the field. Finally, covered in blood, he stares at the horizon, his eyes glowing with power. He feels his strength overflowing with purple lightning bolts shooting from his body. The captain orders everyone to regroup, but his soldier tries to warn him of a new danger. But it's too late as another boss is emerging from the dimensional gate with a terrifying look. He can't believe what he's seeing, completely stunned by the situation. He then shouts for everyone to fall back, announcing he'll hold the front line alone. The creature lets out a roar, confirming that there are now two bosses to face. Badly wounded, he thinks that reinforcements will arrive, but he needs to hold on. Doubt creeps in, and he wonders how long he can last. But suddenly, a flash of light blinds everyone, and a figure appears out of nowhere. The leader turns, completely shocked by the mysterious man's appearance. His soldier is also frozen, not understanding who the newcomer is. Just then, the monsters begin to turn to dust, dissolving into a blue light. The energy is so powerful that even the horde's boss begins to disappear. In the blink of an eye, the battlefield is empty, leaving everyone confused. All the monsters are gone, and now only black feathers fall from the sky. The leader runs to help his fallen soldier, asking if he can move. The young man gets up and says he's fine, just a few scratches despite the fear. With the danger past, the leader takes his hand and says they need to retreat now. He then helps his comrade walk, shouting that they need to get out of the dungeon while they can. But as he looks at the empty battlefield, he can't understand what just happened. From above, our protagonist observes the whole scene, reflecting on what transpired. He sighs, remembering a request to take care of that reckless kid in battle. He then sits on the edge of a cliff, thinking that he saved lives, but it will create a mystery. Elsewhere, the hunter notices that his leader, the class -2, has gotten stronger. With a smile, Kaolo concludes that this battle has made the young man Korea's fourth-class -1 hunter. But suddenly, his stomach rumbles loudly, reminding him that he's hungry. Watching the sunset, he decides the first thing to do is find something to eat. The scene changes, and he appears lighting a small grill to make dinner. Along with Kun, he complains that the fire is too weak and tells him to wait. Just then, Kaolo appears with a pile of firewood, leaving Kun shocked at the scene. Kun stares at Kaolo, thinking it took him 50 years to master his own technique. But suddenly, little Kul approaches the fire, causing Kun to panic with worry. With a curious look, she just tilts her head and asks if that thing is called fire. She then summons the Undying again, creating a magic circle right in front of everyone. The water spirit makes a gesture with its hands, preparing its spell to put out the fire. It then throws a ton of water everywhere, putting out the grill and soaking everyone. With the fire out, Kaolo sighs and says he'll get more firewood to start over. And tonight's barbecue is very special, made with the belly of the boss boar he defeated. Kun is about to take a piece, but Kaolo stops him, telling him to wait a bit. He then shows him the right way to eat, preparing a lettuce wrap with the meat. The red-haired man tries it and is amazed, saying the food tastes incredible. While cooking, Kaolo asks if Kun is still studying the surrounding dungeons. He then tells him that he found a horde of combat boars in the Manhwa mine today, but he explains they were too aggressive and their tusks were not like the ones from a span. And to make matters worse, the dimensional gate's energy was not from a span, leaving Kun speechless. Kaolo confirms with a grim look, saying that Earth might be connected to another dimension. We see that something much bigger is happening with many dimensional gates connecting across the universe. The scene shifts to the headquarters of the National Hunter Association. After all the chaos inside, they are reviewing an unbelievable report about the attack on the Indian dungeon. Sang-Hyu Kim explains that after a flash of light, all the monsters disappeared. His superior says the other team reported the same thing, wondering what happened, but he changes the subject, congratulating the hunter on reaching the master level. Happy with the news, the new class in -1 gets straight to the point and asks if he'll get a raise, but he quickly complains that he won't even have time to spend it, and his boss offers him some time off. Thinking of his team, he refuses the vacation and asks them to reward the whole team instead. The boss then asks what his next class will be, and he replies Iron Heart. We learn that this class grants a second life and boosts defense to an absurd level. He clenches his fist, thinking that once he masters this technique, he'll be tougher than steel. He remembers the battle, and reflects that with this power, he could have bought more time for his team. The boss agrees with his choice, and lets him go, saying the investigation will continue. On his way out, he calls his boss Old Man, who complains about the young man's lack of respect. Alone in the elevator, he thinks that the mysterious light didn't seem evil, but rather inviting. He reflects on the flash, wondering if it was some strange force or genuine help. The hunter realizes that what connected the two incidents was an overwhelming, unprecedented power. In the end, all they could do was hope this force would never become an enemy. The scene returns to the barbecue with meat on the plate and a bottle of soju on the table. To start the evening, one of them fills a small glass with the drink, getting everything ready. Kun then takes a sip and calls Kaolo over to start a more serious conversation. He asks if the Demon King Kaolo fought was really that strong. Kaolo says he was surreal, but boasts that of course he was stronger. Then, Kun asks if he despises his old enemy, and the barbecue's flames flare up. In a flashback, he explains that the people who helped him were killed by the villain's army. Because he had so much power, he decided to fight, and use his strength to stop the Demon King's army. But the war was long, and bloody, and in the end, he found himself alone with no friends left. With an angry look, he confirms that he despises the Demon King with all his soul. We see that he used an incredible spell, becoming the king of that world. Finally, he found him, asking if he was the Demon King. In the past, he asked who had summoned him to that completely desolate kingdom. Back in the present, he reveals that the Demon King was also summoned there. Kun is a bit confused by the story, but Kelho confirms that's exactly what happened. He explains it was the same situation, and Kun wonders who could summon a demon lord. Curious, the red-haired man then asks how he returned to Earth after all that. In a flashback, it's shown that he searched for 10 years before finally giving up, but then a dimensional gate opened in front of him, revealing the buildings of his original world. He ends the story by saying that's how he came back, and that it's the absolute truth. Kelho is surprised to hear this, as Kun says he completely believes him. Sitting around the fire, the red-haired man reaffirms that he trusts his friend's story. Kelho gets up, and Kun says he must have gone through a lot alone. With a sad smile, he just nods, remembering his difficult past. With that, they toast. and Kaldo confesses he still despises the Demon King. But he also feels sorry for him, because he understands the pain of suddenly falling into an alien world. In the end, he concludes it was a brutal kind of loneliness for both of them. He reveals that he always has nightmares where his old name, Mirolis, haunts him. In these dreams, he relives the war and the pain of losing his loved ones. This pain is like a big nail in his chest, an agony that never subsides. To be able to sleep, he drowns himself in alcohol, trying to escape his harsh reality. He thinks that if he weren't so strong, he would have gone mad from all the suffering. But then he wakes up with a start, wondering if maybe he has already gone mad. He sighs in relief when he sees it was a nightmare, and notices Kyul snoring on his lap. She is curled up, sleeping peacefully and comfortably under the blanket. Seeing the cute sight, he calms down, watching the little creature sleep peacefully. Carefully, he places her on the bed, wondering how she ended up there with him. He then looks at Khan, who once again is sleeping awkwardly in a strange position. Chuckling, he thinks that this is just another normal, peaceful morning. He then goes down the stairs of the restaurant, ready to start another day's work. But an old man calls him young man, and he turns, not understanding why. Seeing the man below, he asks if he's being called. An old woman approaches, and asks him how to get to Orang train station. He wonders if a train with that name exists. As she complains about youth, the old woman walks away, grumbling about Lai, leaving Kaldo standing there confused. He thinks that he has never seen her around, and decides to ask about the train later, but he sets the mystery aside, because he needs to get ready to open the shop. He then begins his cleaning routine, scrubbing the counter, and polishing the kitchen knives. With a cloth, he dries the counter's surface, leaving everything shiny for the start of business. Just then, the door opens, and his first customer of the day arrives, wishing him a good morning. Jae-woo Choi sits at the counter and excitedly asks what today's special is. Kaldo tells him that he's still setting up, but he can make him some fried rice. Suddenly, it starts to rain, and the customer remarks that the rainy season has finally arrived. Ignoring the small talk, he cooks, thinking that the customer must know about the mine incident. He serves the food, and the customer mentions that Rang is wandering the neighborhood. The man explains she's an old woman who collects recyclables, and it seems Kaldo doesn't know. Kaldo then confirms he saw her earlier wearing a scarf despite the heat. Kaldo mentions she asked about the train, and the customer says no one knows what it is. With his plate empty, he explains that her generation lost a lot of people and never got over it. Then, Jae-woo Choi says goodbye in the rain and says that maybe it's best to just leave her alone. Watching the rain fall, Kaldo thinks that time passes, but a lived truth never changes. He reflects that this world still bears the scars of a very painful past. In the end, he understands that his customers and the old woman still carry their pain to this day. The scene shifts to Kaldo, who starts his day normally by brushing his teeth in the bathroom. Suddenly, he remembers something, and hastily spits the toothpaste into the sink. Rushing into the living room, he finds Khan encouraging Kyul, who is glowing as she tries to transform. Her blue energy finally dissipates, and the transformation finally seems to end. However, she simply returns to her cute original form, and Khan declares it a failure. Kaldo asks if there's a trick, but Khan warns that the beginning is always the hardest part. An idea pops into Kaldo's head. Maybe he should try dressing the little creature. He takes a random set of clothes, and puts it on Kyul to see what happens. The clothes are too big for her, and he imagines she would look like a 5-year-old. Suddenly, Kyul starts glowing again, this time with a much stronger blue light. The energy ripples around her body as the real transformation takes place. When the light finally fades, it reveals that she has finally transformed into a human girl. Kaldo is completely speechless. Shocked by the result, overjoyed, she runs toward him, calling him dad. But halfway, she loses her balance and slips on the floor. With lightning-fast reflexes, Kaldo catches Kyul before she hits the ground. Radiant with happiness, she grins at him and calls him dad again, showing her small teeth. He remains kneeling, and holds her hand, still processing everything that just happened. Kun then picks her up, celebrating and shouting that she finally did it. He boasts about his sister, but Kaldo warns him that she's not ready to go out. He tells Kun to find her a suitable set of clothes while he goes to prepare food. The scene shifts to the street where a heavy rain begins to fall. Carrying an umbrella, Kaldo goes down the stairs, thinking about what he can cook with the leftovers. In the middle of the rain, he meets the old woman from before standing right in front of him. She approaches and asks if she can take shelter from the rain for a moment. He invites her inside, but she refuses tea, saying she needs to hurry through the rain. He finds her answer fascinating, and notices her voice has suddenly disappeared. The old woman turns to leave, ready to face the heavy rain again. However, Paolo stops her and offers his umbrella so she won't get wet. As she leaves, she asks if he served black bean noodles here. He says he's not sure if he has the ingredients, but will go inside to check. Paolo turns and opens the door, preparing to go back to the kitchen. When he looks outside again, the old woman has disappeared in the rain with her cart. He stands at the restaurant door, thinking about the strange encounter. As the rain continues to fall, a warning on the tea warns of the danger of aquatic monsters. It explains that a common monster, Helpy, becomes much stronger in the rain. Suddenly, Han Kim slams his cup on the table, calling for Paolo. Drunk and desperate, he asks how he can impress a girl. Han Kim then shares a secret, revealing that he only dated once before coming to the other world. He recalls years ago, a mysterious woman saved his life in a dungeon. Paolo remarks that strong women are very attractive, and the Palat agrees while drinking beer. With a distant look, Paolo thinks that he understands the young man, because the same thing happened to him. He remembers the strongest and kindest person he ever knew, the former Miralise. The memory of that woman stirs something deep within him, evoking old feelings. Han Kim continues, saying that while she was cold, he found that part of her charm. Paolo asks if he's talking about the woman who saved him, but Han Kim denies it, saying she's like a mother to him. He explains that the girl he really likes hates him and has even threatened to kill him. Frustrated, he slams the table, complaining that she likes saying "Hugh," which makes no sense to him. With a small smile, Paolo reassures him and promises to keep his secret. Han Kim asks for another can of beer while the radio announces the construction at the Mausoleum of Rest. Hearing the news, Paolo falls silent, lost in thought. The Palat asks what that mausoleum is, and it's explained that it's the burial place for past victims. Because so many people died, the bodies were cremated, and their names were engraved on a tomb. Paolo seems to understand the situation, but suddenly there's a knock on the restaurant door. A blonde hunter walks in, introducing herself as the Queen of Blades, Yoon Lee. Before she can speak, Han Kim turns, already knowing who she's looking for. Without wasting a second, she grabs him by the collar with all her strength, surprising him. With an angry look, she asks if he's drinking again, leaving the Palat speechless. She tells him to stop joking, but the Palat, slumped on the floor, finds her anger attractive. With an intense light in her eyes, it's clear her anger is just beginning. As he's dragged away, the Palat thanks Paolo for the meal, and Yuna does too. Out on the street, he complains that she's getting wet and tells her to get closer to the umbrella. Annoyed, she tells him to shut up as several blades materialize and vanish in the air. Observing the scene, Paolo reflects on her being the Queen of Blades and realizes he needs to clean up the mess. He then remembers why she's here, and that the Kelpies have become very aggressive. He becomes pensive, having a bad feeling about the whole monster situation. As the rain continues to fall heavily, he knows something terrible is about to happen. Back in the kitchen, he finds little Kule trying to steal ingredients from the fridge. He picks her up, joking if she's trying to become a little thief. She hugs him and calls him dad, but he notices her tail is still there. He thinks about her eventually having to return to a spam and wonders about the tail. Kule repeats his words, showing she's gradually learning to speak. With a smile, he hugs her and says he'll take good care of her until that day. Suddenly, the restaurant door opens, and an uninvited guest appears. He puts Kule down and tells her to be quiet, surprised by a customer coming so early. The old woman from before has returned, saying she's glad the restaurant is open. She orders a bowl of black bean noodles and asks how long it will take. Suspicious, he notices her voice is back and she seems quite different. To be sure, he uses his skill and activates the eye of scrutiny to analyze her. The status window shows she hasn't awakened. She is a completely normal person. However, in the observation section, he discovers that the old woman actually has dementia. He reflects on how even healing magic can't fix the scars of the mind. He tells himself that if it could, he would have stopped having nightmares long ago. He decides that the only thing he can do is offer her a good meal. Suddenly, little Kule appears, peeking at the new customer over the counter. She stands there staring at the woman with a very curious look. The old woman is also surprised, looking back at the unusual child. Then, Kule gets closer to her and starts wagging her tail, which makes Paolo tense. He sweats, not knowing what the little creature is planning to do. The old woman wonders what kind of creature it is. Paolo is a bit tense, as the old woman asks what a puppy is doing here. The woman then picks her up, saying she's as cute as her old dog. The little girl replies that her name is Kule, which impresses the customer, who is surprised she can talk. Just then, Thun runs over, wondering why Kuel is there with the human. Kalho just observes for a second, assessing if the interaction is really safe. He says it's okay, and asks Kun to watch the shop in case more people come. With that settled, he turns and decides to make her some black bean noodles. It's explained that this dish used to be easy to find, but not anymore. The ingredients like the past are hard to make from scratch, which complicates the recipe. Since the woman is in a hurry, he decides to use instant noodles to speed things up. So, he starts by frying the black bean paste in a pan until it has a charcoal flavor. While the noodles boil, he mixes the paste with meat and onions, letting it cook. And just like that, Big Pig's black bean noodles are finally ready to serve. He brings the food to the table while the old woman happily plays with little Kuel. Suddenly, the woman remembers she has to go because her grandson is waiting for her at home. At that moment, Kuel turns and quickly grabs a few things from behind the counter. He then hands her the bowl pack to go, warning her to be careful not to break it. She thanks him profusely and shows a handful of cash into his hand as payment. Kuel is surprised to see they are old bills, the kind he hasn't seen in a long time. He says goodbye to the woman, while little Kuel gives a cute wave. We learn that after that day, Orang started coming to this place. Every day, she would bring noodles for someone different. One day for her husband, another for her grandson, but the bowls he lent her never came back, although he knew it wasn't intentional. Though he simply went to a store and bought many new bowls without complaining. The scene changes, and we see Kuel walking on the street with a pensive expression. He continues walking, and arrives in front of a place called the Mausoleum of Rest. As he enters, he glances at a couple crying at one of the graves. He sighs, thinking it can't be his parents' grave, because they are not there. Soon after, he finds the old woman, and asks her to stop, telling her it's a cemetery. He points out that she can't bring food in, because it attracts insects, nor can she sleep there in the cold. Just then, a guard arrives, and warns her that if she doesn't clean everything up, he'll throw it all away. Kuel then glances to the side with the look of someone who has noticed something strange. He sees a makeshift tent and wonders if the old woman lives there. Inside, he can see a photo frame with an old, faded picture. The woman then enters her tent, a sad smile on her face as she sits down. Carefully, she picks up the photo frame that is lying on a chest. She then begins to gently wipe the glass, remembering a moment from the past. Seeing this, Kuel reflects that people don't just smile when they are happy. He understands they also smile to hide pain, something he often does. With that thought, he turns and slowly walks away from the tomb. The scene changes completely, and now a heavy rain begins to fall from the sky. Back at the restaurant, little Kuel jumps with joy by the window as she watches the rain. Kun mentions they need clothes for her, but the market is closed due to the rain. But Kuel starts licking the window, and Kuel notices she likes the rain like a blue dragon. Suddenly a warning on the radio warns about kelpies appearing because of the heavy rain. The message repeats several times, confirming the monster alert is in effect. Kuel then asks Kun to watch the house, already preparing to leave. With a jump, he leaps over the railing, feeling something is very wrong. A purple energy then shoots out of him, streaking across the sky at high speed toward the city. Wrapped in his dark aura, he begins to fly through the rain, going as fast as he can. His expression is grim as he knows this bad feeling is a terrible sign. The scene shifts to the old woman appearing seated at a train station, completely confused. She gets up and looks around, wondering where she is and how she got there. Just then, she sees a sign and realizes she has finally found Rang Station. And at that moment, a train begins to approach the platform, making a loud noise. The train stops right in front of her, and the doors open. From inside the car, the silhouette of a mysterious man appears against a brilliant light. The man then offers her his hand, a gesture that confuses her greatly. The mysterious man then calls for her to come with him, inviting her onto the train. She laughs, and jokes that he looks fancy, but still smells of manure. Just then, a boy appears, following her, and she realizes it's her beloved grandson, Yunun Hao. But as she looks at him, she realizes something is very strange about the boy's face. Her vision blurs, and she panics, unable to remember his appearance anymore. It's explained that her memories have vanished, leaving everything as faded as an old photograph. The illusion then shatters, and the old woman finds herself alone again, soaked by the rain. Like a black and white photo, she realizes that once again she can't remember. Suddenly, a pair of glowing blue hooves splash into a puddle right in front of her. A horse appears and prepares to attack the sleeping woman. The creature approaches carefully, sniffing its victim before making its final attack. The monster opens its huge mouth, ready to devour the poor woman. But Kuel arrives just in time, blowing the creature's head off with a ball of energy. He stands there in the rain, confirming to himself that his hunch was right. Seeing the broken bowls, he concludes the monster found her, because of the spoiled food. Although hears someone shouting that Mrs. Arang is at the cemetery, in the middle of the storm. He turns immediately, his expression serious, already knowing what he has to do. With that, the hero flies toward her just as a group of hunters also arrives at the scene. Their leader is confused as he could have sworn he saw a kelpie forming nearby. But looking at the ground, he sees slime and a mana stone, confirming the monster was there. Sang Hyu Kim then analyzes the puddle, thinking a creature of that size would be quite powerful. He clenches his fist, wondering if that unidentified power struck again. In any case, the group decides to take the old woman to a safer place. As she's carried away, she starts having a nightmare and calls for her grandson, Ian Ho. Even in her sleep, tears stream down her face, showing the pain she still feels. The scene focuses on the fallen photo frame, where a ghostly voice calls for the woman to leave. With the glass broken, the photo reveals the image of her husband. Time passes, and the silence of the night settles over the city, silencing everything. At the restaurant, Hello hears a sound and turns to greet a customer, but to his surprise, it's the old woman from the cemetery suddenly standing at the threshold. She explains that the bowls are broken and apologizes for the inconvenience as she hands him new ones. He then notices she's wearing different clothes, a new and quite lovely outfit. Curious about her attire, he asks if she's going somewhere. With a serene smile, she simply confirms that yes, she is leaving. Helho is silent for a moment, looking down at the bag she handed him. But before she can leave, he insists, inviting her to sit down for one last meal. Without waiting for a reply, he starts washing dishes. Preparing to cook, he asks if black bean noodles are okay, and she nods in agreement. He goes to get the instant noodles but stops midway and rethinks. He turns and asks if she's in a hurry, and she says no. With a smile, he says it will only take a few more minutes. This time he slams the duff on the counter, determined to make her fresh noodles. Homemade noodles usually need to rest, but today he doesn't have time for that, so he cuts the duff thicker, ensuring a much better texture. Soon, he serves the bowl of noodles, surprising the old woman with his speed. The aroma of the food fills the air, looking much more delicious than before. He stands by, waiting as she stares at the bowl without a word. Then, she begins to tell him that she used to work on a farm with her family. Life was hard and busy, but she felt very happy and fulfilled. Her husband was a good man, and because of him, she even learned the city accent. Once a week, they would take their grandson into town to eat black bean noodles. She ends her story with a sad look, remembering the good old days. Just watching her grandson eat made them happy, and they would smile the whole time. But now, she can't remember her husband's face or even her grandson's. She says she doesn't want to forget, but it happens more and more, and that scares her. Suddenly, a small childish voice shouts, "Dad," capturing everyone's attention. Soon after, a small figure runs across the room wearing cute cat slippers. Little Kyul runs over and hugs the old woman, affectionately calling her grandma. Seeing this, the old woman asks if she can give her some of her noodles. Hello smiles and says he'll prepare a brand new bowl just for her. He serves the bowl to Kyul, and she thinks the little girl is precious, watching her with great joy. The little girl then takes her bowl and excitedly insists that she must eat too. Encouraged, the old woman picks up her chopsticks, finally ready to eat her meal. But before taking the first bite, she pauses for a moment, a lost look in her eyes. Kyul notices her hesitation and asks if she's going to eat her noodles. Without waiting for an answer, she happily eats, saying her dad's food is delicious. This scene triggers a reaction in the old woman, as if she has remembered something important. She agrees with the little girl and looks out at the night, saying the noodles are delicious. After they finish eating, both bowls are empty, and she asks to pay. Seeing her stand up, Kalho asks if she's leaving, and the woman confirms. She glances at the window again, and says her train is about to leave. Kalho understands, and with a sad smile, he mentions the payment. He tells her it's on the house, leaving the old woman confused. He explains that he always gives a special treat to customers who are about to start a journey. With a sad smile, she finally understands the gesture and accepts his gift. She thanks him profusely and says goodbye, telling him to take care. People follow different paths in their lives, like the path of a father who works tirelessly for his daughter's future, or that of a veteran who chooses to retire after years of fighting, and even that of a man in love who gives his all for his one true love. But today, it was her path. Little Kyul says goodbye, waving to her. The sky sparkles with shooting stars, and Calho bids her farewell one last time. The scene shifts to the station where the train begins to leave without her, the train's whistle blowing. Desperate, she runs along the platform, shouting for the train to wait a little longer. She runs so fast that her shoes fall off, and she wonders why she's doing this. Out of breath, she keeps running and begs, pleading for it to wait just a little longer. Suddenly, a familiar voice cries out, "Mom," leaving the old woman completely stunned. From inside the train, several people are waving at her, desperately calling, "Mom." She then recognizes her eldest daughter, her second son, and her youngest. And right there, she sees her beloved grandson, calling her grandma with a radiant smile. And just like that, her memories come flooding back, becoming clearer and sharper in her mind. The train stops again, and the doors slide open, revealing her husband. He calls her, "My love," in a calm voice, telling her how much he missed her. He says he knows everything has been very hard and she has suffered a lot. He then offers her his hand, asking her to come and finally be with them. With a happy smile on her face, she accepts his invitation without a second thought. But the scene cuts to the cemetery, where the guard runs to her body, shouting her name. He shakes her, trying to wake her, but quickly realizes she's gone forever. With a sad smile, he understands what happened and is silent for a moment. He thinks about how she always asked about the train and that she finally got her ticket. But then he turns and notices something strange has been left on her grave. Someone has left a bowl of noodles and money for the meal, like a final goodbye. Observing the guard, Calho reflects that you can't stop someone who has decided it's time to go. He understands that sometimes just having to keep living can be the cruelest thing. The scene then shifts, taking us to the Zenkok office in Seoul. Sang-Hyo Kim is at his desk, thinking about recent events, and connecting a few names. He feels something strange is happening in the city involving powers far beyond normal. This unknown force is silent and secretive, operating in the shadows without anyone noticing. But the strangest thing is that despite everything, the power seems to have no ill intentions. Suddenly, he remembers there is someone capable of doing that. He wonders if the hunter Georger could have returned after disappearing 10 years ago. But he saw with his own eyes Georger plunge into a rift with a monster, saving everyone. Although the public believes he's alive, the association knows he'll never come back. Unless, of course, the association is hiding a Class 0 hunter. Frustrated with the situation, Sang-Hyo Kim throws his papers in the air, unsure of what to do next. Powerful monsters have been appearing from the dungeons since the incident at the mine. It all feels like a prelude to a new major invasion, and that worries him. He decides to focus on the most pressing issue and grabs the file on his biggest problem right now. And the confidential file reveals Shinryu, the younger brother of the legendary hunter Georger. The scene shifts to the National Hunter Association, a majestic building in the heart of the city. Inside, an assistant brings the new graduation report for her boss to review. He looks through the files, seeing the profiles of the 3 most promising rookies in the class. The first is Minjin Kim, a class -3 healer who excelled in school. At only 17, she is the daughter of the glutton, who is currently on Sang-Hyo's team. However, the boss notes that they already have a healer there and decides to assign her to another team. Next is Junyeon Lee, a 20-year-old fire mage with great damage potential. The boss arranges the mage's transfer, but quickly worries about the last rookie on the list. The troublemaker is Shinryu, a class -2 warrior with the lycanthropy skill. Because of his power, he has the nickname Werewolf and possesses great potential. First, he is the younger brother of the hunter Georger. Second, the location he requested to be stationed at is Seo Daemun. The boss sighs warily. The kid has already picked fights with several captains. The assistant explains that he defeated many leaders before heading straight to his destination. Angry, the boss curses the kid, wondering who still tries to solve things that way. On another ordinary day, the city buzzes with people moving in all directions. Calho is thinking about making stir-fried pork, but realizes he's out of the necessary meat. At the butcher shop, he sees many options but finds the amount of pork strangely large. He remembers those creatures were in the mine and worries about them appearing in the city. With this in mind, he decides he'll have to look into the situation later. On his way back, he glances at a clothing store, and a dress catches his eye. He goes inside and asks the clerk if the outfit would fit a 5-year-old. With a smile, he confirms the gift is for a little girl, thinking of Kyul. Suddenly, a loud shout echoes through the street, calling for the captain of the temple guild. It's Shinryu shouting for someone named Hikam to come out and fight him immediately. Calho hears the name and remembers he's the new captain who replaced the retired one. He wonders who the blonde kid is, but he's suddenly pushed aside by the rookie. Shinryu introduces himself to everyone, announcing that he has refused the association to join a guild. Kalho can't believe the scene, thinking about how loud young people are these days. A guild member appears at the window and tells the rookie that the captain ordered him to get lost. Ignoring the warning, Shinryu stands his ground with a mocking smile. He starts laughing loudly, claiming the temple guild is afraid of a rookie like him. Suddenly, the sound of an impact rings out, indicating someone has finally appeared. It's Captain Hikon, asking who's making all the noise. Kalho observes that he's quite strong. The captain dismisses it as just a screaming kid. He turns away, declaring that he doesn't waste time with trash, and tells the boy to go home. The rookie taunts him, saying, "A tiger leaves only for a fox to take the throne," which annoys the captain. Seeing him turn his back, Shinryu lunges, asking if the captain is trying to run away. With a swift movement, the captain holds his sword to Shinryu's face. Now angry, he warns that he'll cut that noisy mouth right off the rookie's face. Shinryu smiles, saying, "The fight is finally getting interesting." As his body begins to transform, he jumps forward, claws and fangs out, ready to attack with all he's got. In his werewolf form, he charges with a roar, aiming straight for the captain's neck. But unexpectedly, a purple energy cuts through the air, completely surprising the captain. It's Sang-Hyu Kim, who just sighs, thinking he never gets a peaceful day in this city. Sang-Hyu's spear slams into the ground, breaking up the fight, and surprising everyone. He shouts for them to stop, while Kalho just watches, thinking about the passion of youth. Like new shoots after the rain, the new generation of hunters is finally starting to move. A while later, the three of them appear together at the restaurant door, surprising Kalho. He greets the group, bracing himself for whatever happens next with them. Looking at their bruises, he asks if they fought, but Sang-Hyu says they settled it with their fists. The captain bows his head, admitting that experience defeated raw power, which piques Kalho's curiosity. Without ceremony, the group sits down and orders a bottle of soju and some food. Kalho announces that today's dish is stir-fried pork, and Sang-Hyu agrees immediately. It's explained that the secret to the dish is to fry thick slices of pork in oil. Good stir-fried pork should have a lot of meat, not the kind that's mostly vegetables. He prepares 5 portions for the 3 of them with a garlic and chili sauce. The amazing stir-fried pork is served, leaving the rookie impressed by the size. But the peaceful atmosphere doesn't last long. Shinryu sighs, and puts on his headphones. Sang-Hyu announces he'll pay, and tells the captain to handle the rest of the mess. Kalho says goodbye, but is annoyed that he made 5 portions just for Sang-Hyu to leave. With his head down, the rookie admits he lost, and says he'll join the guild, but the captain fills his glass, and says he doesn't want him, leaving the boy shocked. He warns the rookie not to get ahead of himself, thinking his little world is everything. With a serious look, the captain tells him he needs to learn he's not so special. After the lecture, he simply turns and leaves them both behind. Kalho stands at the counter, impressed by the attitude he just witnessed. But the rookie's eyes start to sparkle, thinking it was the coolest thing in the world. He runs after the captain, desperately shouting for him to wait. Observing the whole scene, Kalho smiles slightly, already imagining the future of that generation. As the two walk away, the rookie begs for a chance in the new team. Kalho knows that as they get stronger, their enemies will too. He looks at a newspaper lying on the floor. The news confirms that dimensional gates are appearing more frequently than usual. Finally, he looks at the untouched food and laments, making 5 portions for nothing. At dawn, little Kyo wakes up and stretches, ready for a new day. She sees that everyone in the house is still asleep, completely passed out in bed. She remembers that Khan told her to wash her face every time she wakes up in the morning. A water elemental appears, and she calls it to come play for a bit. The spirit splashes a bunch of water on her, giving her a quick and magical bath. The water completely envelops her body, washing away all the dirt and sleep from her face. With a radiant smile, she celebrates being clean and ready for the day. The elemental applauds her, praising her for being a good girl. After her bath, she goes to Kalho and tries to wake him, but he's still fast asleep. She gently pats his face, praising him for being a good boy too. Seeing her new dress, she giggles, excited to wear the clothes she was given. After getting dressed, she goes downstairs, thinking about food, very hungry to start the day. Suddenly, a strange red dimensional gate begins to open right in front of her. The energy glows brightly, and she wonders what this thing appearing out of nowhere is. Curious, she reaches out and touches the surface of the dimensional gate without any fear. But as she does, she ends up getting sucked inside. As soon as she passes through, the dimensional gate closes, completely disappearing from the room. The scene shifts to a dark, gloomy place where footsteps echo in a stone hallway. Tulle and her elemental appear out of nowhere, and she immediately shouts that it's time to play. Fearless, she starts walking through the area, stepping near skulls and bones on the ground. Suddenly, a loud noise catches her attention, and she turns to see what it is. In front of her, a giant minotaur and its soldiers appear, looking anything but friendly. But she just tilts her head and imitates their sound, not scared at all. Annoyed, the leader points and orders one of his minions to attack her now. The monster then charges at her, ready to attack with its giant axe. Seeing the danger, the water elemental begins to transform to protect its friend. It turns into a giant water creature, and Tulle celebrates, shouting with joy. With a huge wave, the spirit attacks and engulfs all the monsters at once. Trapped in the water, the enemies are confused, shocked by such power. Even the leader is defeated, and she praises herself, saying she's a good girl. She then gently pats one of the dazed monsters, as if it were a pet. Seeing this, the leader realizes that to have such a spirit, she must be at least a master. The leader gets angry and shouts that she's a threat that needs to be eliminated now. Furious, he charges forward with all his might, smashing the surrounding walls, but suddenly a fist punches through the wall. It's Kalho, who grabs his snout, leaving the monster completely shocked by the sight. He then throws the beast to the ground, and Tulle runs over happily, calling for her dad. Panic, the Minotaur wonders who the man who appeared out of nowhere is. But when he sees his face, the monster realizes he's the legendary Mirrorlees. Kalho grabs its horns, but the beast tries to deny it, saying he's mistaken. With a deadly look, the hero squeezes and breaks its horns, and the monster quickly confesses the truth. He explains that he escaped with the Demon King when he fled through the dimensional rift. The beast swears that he returned to this labyrinth 10 years ago, and has never left since. Kalho asks what he knows about the Demon King, and he says the Lord went to sleep. His eyes glow with power, and he uses an ability to check if it's true. He confirms the story, and the monster asks if he came to invade the demon realm. But Kalho explains that this is Earth and tells himself that the Demon King can't be dead. He explains that to fight the Demon King, he had to master 6 classes of power. Then, along with the dragons and the Ice Emperor, they almost defeated him for good. But due to luck or fate, a rift opened, and the enemy escaped through it. He thinks that the Minotaur is not one of the strongest, but it's still a powerful boss. Just then, little Tulle's stomach growls, and he realizes she's very hungry. With everything settled, he picks her up and says it's time to go. But before leaving, he turns to the Minotaur, remembering there's one more thing. He stares at the beast, and tells it there's a small job he needs it to do right now. The scene then cuts to the restaurant where a new day begins with sunshine outside. In the kitchen, Kalho has started cutting a thick piece of red meat to cook. Kun arrives, smells the meat, and asks what's for lunch. But Kalho is lost in thought, staring at the pot without answering. Then, Kun shouts that the pot is boiling, and the hero finally returns to reality. He says that breakfast is ready but mentions that Tulle has already eaten and gone back to sleep. Kun asks what kind of meat it is, and Kalho replies that it's oxtail because it reminds him of something. Kun picks up a stringy vegetable, and Kalho tells him it's a chile, very good for stress. He still takes a bite, wondering if it's some kind of herb. Instantly, he breathes fire, shouting that it's very, very spicy. As he drinks some milk, the bell chimes, and Kalho turns to see who's arrived. A young woman with a bouquet of flowers appears, saying she opened a shop nearby. She offers him the flowers, and Kalho thanks her, accepting the welcome gift. But the woman smells the meat and asks if he serves food. Excited, she asks for a bowl of soup, and the hero agrees with a smile. Kun notices the new customer and just wants her to let him finish his soup in peace. The woman then pouts, complaining that there are some vegetables on her table. Suddenly, her eyes glow, and she starts staring at the vegetables on the table. The chili starts to float, and Kun is confused about what's happening. Then, 2 giant onions jump onto the counter, and Kalho just observes the strange scene. The vegetables come to life and start dancing, and the woman shouts that they are running away. Kalho activates his eye of scrutiny and sees that the vegetables are actually mandrakes. He realizes the girl is a plant-regenerating hunter, a very rare class. It's explained that this ability is powerful enough to stop a demon army. Despite this, he scolds her, and she apologizes, saying she feels uncomfortable around vegetables. Kalho picks up one of the mandrakes, finding the whole situation very strange and unusual. Just then, Gabby walks into the restaurant and asks for a salad in a very confident voice. Gabby recognizes the flower girl, calling her by the nickname Blossom. She confirms it's her and asks what she's doing here. far from her base. Mortified, the flower girl shouts that she was fired for a big mistake, explaining she couldn't kill the plant monsters and her partner got hurt. Gabby says she needs to admit her mistakes, and Caldo realizes she's quite wise. The hunter asks if she ran away to open a flower shop, but she says this is her home now. However, the woman warned her that running away won't solve anything, leaving the girl pensive. Blushing, she agrees and says she at least needs to apologize for her mistake. She then gets up to pay, but Calho has a better idea to settle the bill. He asks if she has any cultivation seeds, and offers her a very different deal. Excited by the deal, the young woman says she'll bring the best seeds she has. Just then, the bell chimes, and a man in a suit and hat enters the restaurant. The girl recognizes him as Captain Gentleman, and he greets the other hunter present. The woman gets the nickname, and immediately shouts at the captain to stop calling her that. He then tells the florist that they have no time to waste because a new dungeon has appeared. The captain says he approves of her dismissal if it's official, and she calls herself useless. But he comforts her, saying everyone makes mistakes and the important thing is to admit it and grow. Without ceremony, he calls her Blossom and picks her up. Preparing to leave, he carries her like a sack, saying they are out of time. While she tells him to stop, the captain then notices Calho and asks if he's the owner of the establishment. He says Saint Hugh spoke highly of the place, and promises to come back to eat another time. Before leaving, he announces that Gabby will pay, leaving the woman exhausted. Kun then asks her why her nephew is hiding in the corner. She looks over, sees the boy, and brushes it off, saying it's nothing. A bit embarrassed by the scene, seeing the commotion is over, she says she'll be going too, and leaves cash on the counter. As the customer leaves, Kalho politely says goodbye, as he always does with everyone. He notices Kun standing still and asks what's wrong, but the young man just stares in amazement. Kun becomes goofy, remembering the hunter and the wise words she spoke. He then turns to Kalho and declares that he thinks he has completely fallen for her. Kalho asks, "Since when?" And the young man says, "It just happened. Love at first sight." With his red aura radiating power, he takes a firm step inside, feeling relieved to be free from the walls. He looks at the giant crystal floating in the sky. Then, the monsters greet him as their boss, and he finally understands how the labyrinth is maintained. He analyzes the crystal, and realizes it's a magical artifact too advanced for a dungeon. He even considers taking the item, but he knows the magic will disappear if he removes it. Seeing the farm, he asks if minotaurs eat humans, and discovers a dark past. Their leader approaches and fearfully says they only grow grass to eat. Seeing the ridiculous answer, he flicks the monster's nose, leaving it confused, but Caldo grabs its face tightly, demanding to know what else they grow there. We learn that the fruits are excellent, like small apples and soft-shelled pineapples. He then throws a bag of seeds to the minotaur, and orders it to plant them. Our hero tells it that they are vegetables, and he will teach them how to grow everything properly. His attention shifts to a warehouse, and he asks what's stored inside. The minotaur is afraid he'll steal the food, but Calho makes a worse offer. With no other choice, the monster leads him to the storage room, showing him all the supplies. He checks the treasures, realizing they are spoils from the old invasion of a span. Suddenly, something shines brightly, catching his attention among all the items. Using his ability, he discovers it's the Tears of the Sea, a gem of the sea people. A flashback begins, explaining that the gem can create whatever its owner desires. Its first owner was a farmer who wished for infinite rice for his family, but greed took over, and a merchant eventually stole the magic gem from him. The man then fled across the ocean and asked for salt, which was worth a fortune at the time. With that, the gem began to produce salt endlessly, fulfilling the thief's wish. But the production was so great that the weight eventually sank the ship and the merchant himself. Caldo holds the gem and confirms the legend is true and its salt is incredible. He decides to take the item, knowing it will be very useful in his new restaurant. Before leaving, he opens a dimensional gate and tells the minotaurs to eat well to expand the fields. As soon as he disappears, the monster leader asks, relieved if he's finally gone. He takes a deep breath and touches his head, remembering that the fear of war never fades. The minotaur recalls the past when that man had cornered the Demon King. He also remembers a little girl who, despite her appearance, was a powerful dragon. The monster then wonders if Calhoun now commands dragons and starts to panic. In his mind, he imagines the hero has conquered the world and will invade the demon realm. His desperation grows as it's only been 10 years since his only hope, the Demon King, fell asleep. He then realizes that his only chance of survival is to side with the protagonist. The minotaur then turns and shouts to the others, announcing that the first order is to get stronger. The scene shifts to the city, and someone lands. Then, a huge purple dimensional gate opens, and Gabby arrives with her elite team. One of the soldiers calls her Night Cat, and warns that this is the biggest gate they have ever seen. She assesses the situation, and says they need to go in and call for reinforcements immediately. The hunter reflects that larger gates usually lead to dungeons with much stronger monsters. But when she enters, she's startled. The place is completely empty, and in ruins. The dungeon sky trembles strangely, but absolutely nothing happens. She feels an overwhelming pressure like that of a predator, and orders an immediate retreat from the mission. Outside, her team is shocked as they watch the dimensional gate close abruptly. Sang-hyo asks her what was inside, and the hunter replies that there was nothing. He's annoyed, asking if the place was unstable and if a guard team has been put in place. One of the agents confirms, adding that the sky's distortion is worsening by the minute. Just then, another hunter reports that the president has issued a Class -3 alert for everyone. Suddenly, Un Kim arrives, happily greeting Sang-hyo and Aunt Gabby. He then remarks that everything strange lately has been happening in the same area of the city. Gabby notices Sang-hyo's fatigue and advises him to rest, but it seems no one will be sleeping as the dimensional gate continues to vibrate menacingly. The scene then shifts to Kal-ho's restaurant, where there is a very peaceful atmosphere. We see Khan in a white suit, thinking he's a real heartthrob. He asks Kal-ho what he thinks of the look, but our hero doesn't understand. Khan then reminds him that she's coming today, and Kal-ho realizes he's talking about the Night Cat. Our hero confirms she comes every day, so she'll probably show up. And just like that, the hunter enters the restaurant and orders a salad, surprising Khan. Kal-ho says he'll prepare it, but stops midway, feeling something different in the air. Unexpectedly, Khan kneels before her and proposes with a flower. She's confused, asking if he's talking to her, and Khan nervously confirms, but the hunter starts to laugh, saying she doesn't like younger guys, because they are nothing but trouble. She then teases him about his age, and Kal-ho steps in to pull him away. He then apologizes for his nephew, but she finds the whole scene quite adorable. Khan then whispers to Kal-ho, asking if his move was too weird. After the answer, the poor boy is heartbroken, and Kal-ho decides to fix the mess. To do this, he takes out the tears of the sea, thinking he'll use this item sooner than expected. He uses the jam to sprinkle salt on a watermelon, a trick to make the fruit sweeter. With everything ready, he serves the salad and watermelon to the waiting hunter. She takes a bite of the fruit, and her expression immediately shows the taste is incredible. The hunter then praises the food, saying she feels all her fatigue melt away. She confesses she doesn't have much of an appetite, but his food always helps her keep going. Then, the Night Cat warns him to be careful, because a Class -3 alert is about to be issued. She explains that although it's the lowest level, it means a Class -1 boss has appeared. The hunter continues, explaining that Class -2 is for 2 bosses, and Class -1 only happens during the Great Invasion. She warns that an unpredictable dungeon has appeared, so even the strongest hunters are on standby. Just then, her communicator beeps, and she grumbles that the city is always busy. Before leaving, she whispers for him to talk to his nephew and find him a good girl. She then thanks him for the meal, and our hero says goodbye, telling her to take care. Kal-ho then confirms with Khan that yes, it was a big rejection. The boy asks if he also thinks it's strange for a dragon to love a fairy. A flashback begins, and a beautiful fairy says that his time passes differently from hers. She advises him to stop sacrificing himself for others and finally live for himself. He remembers the fairy saying this before falling into a deep sleep to heal. Back in the present, Kal-ho says that race doesn't matter in love, and neither does he. Khan is excited by the rumors, but our hero changes the subject and asks him to go for a walk. But suddenly his expression changes as he senses a malevolent aura in the air. A purple energy surrounds him, and Khan shouts, smelling a strong scent of blood. With a grim expression, our hero recognizes that familiar scent from a distance. He realizes it's the scent from 10 years ago during the fight against the Demon King. Just then, the new villain summons her children, completely surrounding the hunter team at the scene. With glowing magic, she orders her monsters to simply devour them all without mercy. Sang-hyo wastes no time, shouting for his team to hold a battle formation. The mages then quickly unite, creating a powerful protective energy barrier, but the enemy's attack comes from above with multiple blood orbs falling on the shield. The blood then merges, forming a hideous monster ready to fight. The creature attacks with full force, starting to crack the barrier, and pushing the hunters to desperation. But just in time, Khan arrives, and slashes the vampire in two with his sword. He then realizes the monsters are just puppets made of pure blood magic. Sang-hyu recognizes him and is relieved by the arrival of reinforcements in the dangerous dungeon. From above, the villain calls them pathetic and prepares a new attack spell. Sang-hyu sees the Temple Guild arrive and announces that everyone is ready to fight. The woman then uses blood to create a new creature, a warrior with a powerful aura. He flies in the sky and unleashes a devastating attack on the hunters below. A blood mist blocks their vision, and Sang-hyu shouts for everyone to be on guard. One of the hunters activates a high-tech weapon, charging a blue energy shot. The shot hits its mark, striking one of the enemies, who screams in pain from the impact. Sang-hyu is annoyed by the shot, and Hun Kim regrets losing his chance with Yuna. He asks Hun Kim to clear their vision, but he says he can't with so much fog. But he uses his gloves to create a sound pulse, at least clearing his own vision. With that, he shoots a beam of blue energy through the blood mist, but the blood monster regenerates in mid-air as if nothing happened to it. The shooter then realizes that normal attacks won't work on that thing. Suddenly, he's surprised, warning everyone that the monster is trying to escape. The creature goes straight for the gate, and a hunter tries to stop it. Sang-hyu then throws his spear with precision, taking down the blood target. He takes the opportunity and shouts for the others to act, taking advantage of the opening he created. He orders the defense team to seal the exit, and a team begins the spell. A huge magic barrier is created, completely sealing the gate's passage. With the exit blocked, the hunters gather, ready for the real fight. Sang-hyu then gives the order to start, and the warriors charge toward the demons. The villain realizes she's at a disadvantage, thinking things have gone wrong for her. She has only recovered a fraction of her power and doesn't understand why these humans are so strong. She even considers swallowing her pride and simply begging for her life. But the fear of death is stronger, and she tries to escape with all her might through the cracks in the seal. Suddenly, Gabby appears right in front of her, glowing with a green aura of power. With a dagger in hand, she warns that playtime is over and she will end the fight. Meanwhile, the smaller demons push against the barrier, which slowly starts to break. One of them finally manages to create a crack, and the magic seal begins to crumble. Seeing this, the hunter attacks the boss, saying they need to finish it now. Even after being hit, the demon just starts to laugh menacingly. Her body turns back into blood, and the hunter retreats, not understanding her strategy. The blood then rises, passing through the barrier that is about to break completely. With a triumphant smile on her face, the villain celebrates that she has finally escaped. She then shouts that she's free, but Kelho is standing right at the gate's exit. Without a second thought, our hero takes her down. With that, he catches her in midair, completely unconscious. Just then, the elf Kasem appears from a dimensional gate, remarking that Sir Kelho is just an ordinary person. He then confirms to the unconscious villain that yes, it's really him standing before her. Kelho then reveals that she is Suffing, the vampire lord and one of the rulers of the underworld. He gives a direct order to Kasem, telling him to simply make her disappear. Our protagonist turns away, lost in thought, and praises the work of the Hunter Association. He recalls how they moved with incredible precision throughout the battle and how they ended it all without casualties, with formidable firepower and decision-making. With this, he realizes this world is full of elites he can trust. With a small smile, he decides that the world will be safe in the Hunter's hands. But he warns that this time he'll want a share of all the spoils from the war. He then asks his servant Kasem to bring him a class -1 mana stone. With the stone in hand, he inspects it and says it will be enough. He then enters his dimensional gate and announces that now it's time for a reunion. The scene shifts to the demon realm, a place where survival of the fittest is the only law. It's explained that the Demon King commands 4 lords, his trusted generals. Each of them possesses absurd power and follows his orders without question. But it seems things have changed as we see the vampire lord relaxing in a bathtub. Her vampire legion had cleared many battlefields until the day the tables turned. Angry, she slams the table and shouts that she doesn't understand how one man defeated her army. She narrowly escaped death, and now she needs blood to regain her strength. She consoles herself that the other lords were also defeated in the Great War. With hatred in her eyes, she swears to kill Miro Lees as soon as she recovers. But suddenly, she feels something strange and doesn't understand what's happening. A dimensional gate appears and starts to suck everything in, including her bathtub. She is pulled straight into the dimensional gate with no time to react. The scene cuts, and she wakes up tied, letting out a scream of pain and desperation. Kalho then announces that she's awake and she only has 2 options to choose from. She recognizes him and shouts his name, but he just wants to know if the Demon King is still asleep. She's shocked, unable to understand why our hero still has such a youthful appearance. The vampire then reveals she waited 60 years, thinking he would be old and dead by now. Seeing her loyalty, Kaldo threatens her, but she begs him, saying she'll tell him everything. With that, she confirms that the Lord is still asleep, and it will take another 90 years to recover. He then asks how much of her power she has recovered, and the vampire replies that it's 2/5. The protagonist calculates her power, remembering that kings devour dozens of class -1 monsters. He asks if she came to Earth intentionally, but the Lord denies it, claiming it was bad luck, but her lie is exposed, and he threatens her again, making her confess the plan. He then realizes that the monsters are getting stronger, and her appearance was not a coincidence. He deduces that someone is intentionally opening these dimensional gates, but he doesn't know who. She explains that the demon realm fell into chaos with an endless war because of him. The Lord confesses that the others are recovering at a similar rate and she is the third strongest. He approaches her, and she fearfully asks if he will really spare her life. He grabs her by the horns and says he keeps his word, leaving the vampire relieved. But since a promise is a promise, he throws her into a dimensional gate straight to the Minotaur's labyrinth. He steps through the dimensional gate and shouts Mano's name. Kalho then announces that Sufin is the new worker, and the Minotaur recognizes the Lord. Our hero says goodbye to Bo, leaving the rest of the task to the Minotaur. He then tells her that Miro now commands dragons, and has a whole legion of them. She deduces that he has mastered several classes, which must be how he achieved immortality. But she's annoyed with all the talk, and threatens the Minotaur right there if he doesn't shut up. Scared, he explains the rules of the place, warning that those who don't work won't keep. Sufin gulps, waiting to hear the most important rule. He then reveals the final secret, to eat a lot and recover all her strength. The Lord is confused by the reason, and the Minotaur also seems confused by the order. Just then, a system window appears confirming the new employee for the restaurant. With a glowing red aura, our hero returns to the Minotaur's labyrinth. He arrives and finds it strange. All the monsters are completely exhausted on the ground. Suddenly, he finds the vampire and asks what she's doing. She immediately defends herself, swearing that she has worked hard and eaten a lot without complaining. The vampire lord then explains she was just following the rules, so she drank their blood. But he tells her that she's an exception, and as a new rule, he orders her to get dressed. She then gets dressed and shows off her new look, wanting to know if he approves of the style. The vampire says she used the blood as fertilizer, and the vegetables are much better. It's explained that her power purifies blood, turning it into both a remedy and a poison. He then inspects the vegetables, and likes the results, saying he'll use them in the restaurant. The scene changes, and we return to the restaurant, with the light chime of the bell. Kaldo finds Khan looking tired and calls him to help prepare the new vegetables. The dragon grumbles that he's exhausted because he hasn't even finished dicing the carrots. Our hero understands his fatigue because he knows Khan has been working double lately. At this, Khan suggests they take a vacation, and the idea excites everyone. The little dragon approaches, and shows a newspaper to Kaldo, calling him dead. With bright eyes, she begs him to take her to the beach she saw in an ad. Seeing she knows how to hide her horns, he agrees. And she is overjoyed. To thank him, she bows excessively, which makes our hero a bit awkward. He then turns to Khan, laughing, and asks if he was the one who taught her that. Kaldo tells him, "You don't have to do that," and tells the dragon to get ready. With everything decided, they close the restaurant, and hang a closed sign. Out on the street, everyone is ready, and excited with their beach clothes and flowies. Our hero then gets ready, and with a touch, he starts to make everyone levitate. Suddenly, they start to fly, and Ken shouts in surprise at his boss's ability. Kalho explains that he learned most of his classes to kill enemies quickly. He then tells everyone to hold on and picks up the little dragon to fly. They then shoot across the sky at high speed like a purple comet. Khan is amazed, and shouts that the feeling of flying as a human is very different. And so, with the little girl in his arms, they continue their journey, enjoying the flight together. He flies through the sky with a serious look, preparing everyone for what's to come. Through the trees, a bright light shines, revealing their final destination. With that, they finally reach their destination, the vast, beautiful sea of this world. He explains that the beach used to be very crowded, but now it's a lawless land because of the dimensional gates. Kaldo asks if Khan is going in the water, but he says he's not a big fan. While the little girl has fun with the water spirit, he says he's fine just watching. Our hero then smiles and agrees with his dragon friend's decision. At that moment, he summons Kasem and asks him to bring a legendary fishing rod from the east. The servant appears immediately, offering the magical item to his beloved master. He explains that he received the rod from a sage, and that it catches big fish without bait. Wasting no time, the man makes an incredible leap and prepares to start fishing. He remembers the sage saying that fishing is a time for self-reflection, but he still doesn't understand because when he reflects, he can only find regret. Suddenly, the line pulls hard, and he realizes he won't have time to think. And unexpectedly, a giant monster, the Kraken, leaps out of the water, startling everyone. Meanwhile, the little dragon is having fun in the water, asking the spirit to catch small fish. But although gets her attention, showing her the giant fish he caught. But he warns that although catching the fish is good, those fish are not good to eat. It's explained that giant squids smell bad because their bodies are full of ammonia to float. But with sparkling eyes, he prepares to cut the beast, because the Kraken is different. With his magic blade, he slices the monster, explaining that the meat is fresh and delicious to eat. He recalls that seafood stew was his old army's favorite dish. With that, he prepares an incredible dish with both raw and grilled Kraken tentacles. The little dragon's mouth waters, and she quickly asks her dad for a piece of the food. He then hands her the skewer, and she eats it all with a smile of pure happiness. She hugs him and says he's the best, which makes our hero very proud. They then stay on the beach just to enjoy the beautiful orange sunset. Suddenly, the sky is full of lights, and Khan is mesmerized by the magical sight. Our hero explains that they are glowing insects that also come from the other world. At that moment, he remembers the salt, and figures out the real reason those creatures are there. A flashback begins, and he remembers his father was from Bizan, but had moved to Seoul. On the nights he came home late, the two of them would eat sliced squid, and that made him think. In high school, he thought college was the finish line for everything. But when he returned from the army, the world was in a job crisis, and that hit him hard. Graduating from college then seemed like the beginning of hell as his dreams vanished. Nothing seemed to work out, and society called him a failure, constantly criticizing him. He then wondered if it was wrong to just want a high-paying job. At 30, he gave up on everything, and decided to become a civil servant. He then recalled his father's advice along with the salty smell of the sea. The old man said that the path he was on was surely the right one. He swore to return home successful, but he was never able to fulfill that dream. In the end, he couldn't return, and was eventually taken to another world. Back in the present, Thun asks if something is wrong, pulling him out of his memories. Our hero then stares at the horizon with a distant look, lost in his past, but he turns back with a slight smile, and says it's nothing, hiding his pain. On the beach, Thun offers his friend a drink, who immediately accepts. The scene cuts to the night, and a giant winged creature flies under the moonlight. We then see that the eagles are chasing a criminal monster who is fleeing at high speed. It's revealed that its cargo is hundreds of mana stones on their way to the lawless zone. The order is clear. They cannot let the crystal monster leave the city, and they begin the arrest. Returning from the beach, the little dragon lands stylishly in front of the restaurant. Hello announces he's going to prepare the Kraken and asks Khan to put her to bed. Alone in the kitchen, he wonders what delicious dish he'll make with the creature. He imagines various options like a salad, or even stuffing the monster with a sundae. But in the end, he has a very different special recipe in mind. He then starts preparing, cutting everything into pieces, and making a batter. With hot oil, he fries the Kraken pieces until they are golden brown. And just like that, the dish is finally ready. A large portion of crispy fried Kraken. He tries a piece, and the taste is simply perfect, just as he imagined. The meat is soft and juicy, and the crust is just right. He then decides this dish needs a can of beer, and goes to the fridge to get one. But he hears a meow and thinks a stray cat must have wandered into the restaurant. When he turns, he comes face to face with a giant cat almost the size of a tiger cub. Using his ability, he sees this creature is a normal cat, but it has ingested mana. We learn that animals that ingest mana usually die because they can't handle the power. It's explained that pure mana stones are lethal to living creature. Feeling sorry for the creature, he offers it some cooked Kraken. Helho notices the cat is quite gentle despite its large size. With that, he relaxes with his beer and snack, and starts reading the newspaper. The article is about one of the 5 guardians who survived the Great Invasion. He has an uneasy feeling as if he's seen that face before. Suddenly, an idea strikes, and he finally remembers where he knows him from. He sees another news story about giant cat attacks happening in the city. Hearing this, our hero quickly turns to see where the cat went, but the cat is gone, leaving only a completely clean plate. The scene changes to the morning with sunshine and birds chirping. Unexpectedly, a large fire breaks out inside the kitchen. The little dragon is very excited, playing with a very strange instrument. Khan explains that he's heating the broth by hand because the charcoal stove is broken. Kaldo can't help it and starts laughing at the completely bizarre scene. Our hero explains that the charcoal stove will work again if they replace the mana stone. Just then, he hears a meow, and Khan is shocked that the fix is so simple. The giant cat returns, bringing a mouse as a gift, but Kaldo is not thrilled with the idea. The little dragon is scared and thinks it's a tiger, but he explains it's just a cat. She then gets closer and starts petting the creature, even giving it a name. She then rides the cat and shouts, "Attack!" Dashing off with the cat. He realizes the cat is too gentle and wonders if the other cats ate mana. Suddenly, Hodori runs outside, leaving the two of them confused. A man then lands with his eagle, and a new character appears at the restaurant door. The man approaches and greets the chef, and the little girl is sad that the cat is gone. He sits at the counter, asking for a snack, and is called gentleman. Just then, Hikane and Shinryu appear, and Shinryu suggests it's better to just exterminate the cats. Shinryu is hungry and asks for something cold, curious about the day's menu. In the kitchen, he thinks about how to prepare a cold, light dish with the kraken he caught. And so, he serves a cold kraken soup, which is sliced squid. Hikane then asks for some rice, but Shinryu finds the idea completely ridiculous. With a smirk, he mixes the rice into the soup, preparing the perfect spoonful. Hikane tries it, and the taste is so good that the other hunter drools beside him. At piss, he begs for a bite, but Kaldu tells him to order his own rice. He then asks Gentleman if he's going to hunt the cats that attacked the civilians. The man confirms the mission, and the Temple Guild captain worries about him going alone. He replies that they are probably the cats from the old case he investigated. Kaldu is curious, and the man explains that a thief stole a bunch of mana stones. After the robbery, the thief disappeared from the map, leaving no clues. We learn his nickname is Beast because he has the power to control animals. We see a flashback as the hunters prepare to catch Beast and the stolen truck. One of the hunters then uses her magic, and several roots burst from the ground with full force. The plants wrap around the truck, crushing it as if it were made of paper. But inside, the mysterious villain whistles. Unexpectedly, a flock of crows explodes from the truck, surprising the hunters. One of the crows snatches a stolen mana stone and prepares to flee. Gentleman then orders the sorceress to surround them, and she uses a light spell. But suddenly, her magic fails, and she's confused about what happened. Just then, a giant black tiger appears and attacks the truck, destroying the roots. He realizes the enemy is a hunter, but one who uses animals to fight. Suddenly, he feels movement and turns, startled by what he sees in the forest. Several cats with golden auras run out, fleeing the crime scene. He then realizes that the crows were just a distraction for the others to escape. On top of the truck, a larger tiger roars, protecting its master's escape. With a smirk, Beast hides in the shadows, satisfied with his plan, and so he flies away on his eagle, leaving the hunters behind. Gentleman is furious with this situation, unable to believe he let the villain escape. He then announces that the priority is to recover the stones since Beast has escaped. Back at the restaurant, he explains that the villain fed the stones to 30 cats. Kaldu then remarks that few beasts can withstand the power, only gaining strength for a short time. The hunter confirms his mission is to take care of the 4 surviving cats. Kaldu asks about the thief's motive, and he says the man is definitely creating something. He also reveals that most hunters in the lawless zone are foreigners. Gentleman then stands up, saying he needs to go before people start hating cats even more. He says his goodbyes and leaves, and the other hunters also decide to leave the restaurant. All alone, the man walks through a forest as the sun sets on the horizon. Suddenly, he stops, feeling that something or someone is there, watching from the shadows. He then finds one of the cats, but the poor animal couldn't handle the power and died. Just then, a meow catches his attention, and his eagle lands on his shoulder, startled. It's Hodori, who survived the mana stone and is now there, growling at him. He's shocked at how this could be, as the cat seems to be in excellent condition. The creature threatens him with its claws, and he realizes the cat is just protecting something. Although he feels petty, he thinks he just needs one blow to close the case. He tries to convince himself that he can't feel pity, because a job is a job. The cat's reflection shines in his glasses, and he says this is the right thing to do. In the kitchen, Kalvo washes dishes, thinking about the hunters from the ungoverned zone. The scene shifts to a chaotic world with open dimensional gates, and monsters ruling everything. He continues his work, reflecting that any hunter from there must be very strong. Just then, the bell chimes, and a voice calls him chief, catching his attention. Gentleman walks in, and Kalho asks if the job went well. Back at the counter, he offers a strong drink he is called hangja. Gentleman accepts, and tells him not to drink on an empty stomach. Kalho decides to fry some meat. Since he doesn't have pork, Kalho takes the beef he bought earlier. With a precise cut, he quickly starts slicing the meat to prepare the dish. The meat sizzles in the hot oil. He then takes it out for a second frying. Gentleman then asks, a bit curious, if he eats fried meat with any kind of sauce. Daewoo says it's on the house, but the man insists on paying for the dish. He then just asks for salt, and Kalho smiles, because that's the best way to enjoy the meat's flavor. With everything ready, Kalho hands the bottle of liquor to the customer, who thanks him. Gentleman picks up a piece of fried meat and dips it lightly in salt before eating. He takes a crispy bite of the meat, clearly enjoying the flavor. Next, the man takes a shot of the drink, feeling the strong liquor go down. With a relieved and satisfied expression, he sighs, relaxing at the counter. 10. The customer calls for Kalho again, who turns to hear what he wants to say. He asks what to do when your head says one thing, but your heart says another. Kalho replies that on the battlefield, such difficult choices are common. The scene changes to a flashback where a friend is dying, surrounded by enemies. He explains that your heart tells you to save your comrade without thinking of the consequences, but your head tells you to advance with the army because you'll save more lives. Back in the prison, Kalho reveals that no matter what, he always had to pay a price. Daewoo listens attentively as Kalho says there's always regret left but also something gained. He then poses the question, asking what to do if the loss is just money. Gentleman reflects on this, saying that in hindsight, maybe money isn't that important. With a pensive look, he is silent for a moment, and then he takes another sip of his drink, downing the glass in one go. After eating, he places the glass on the table and says he feels more at ease. With that, a memory of Sang-Hyu-Kim comes to his mind, sitting alone with a glass of liquor. Kalho then smiles, thinking that the spearmage and gentleman are alike. Just then, Florzina appears at the door and greets the man, calling him Captain Gentleman. She says she saw his eagles outside, so he asks what she's doing here so late. With a big smile, Florzina replies that she lives nearby, right in that alley. Seeing the food, she asks for some meat, but Daewoo dismisses her immediately. He then thanks him for the meal, leaving the plate and bottle empty. The girl helps him leave, as he's drunk and stumbles through the door. But as they leave, they are startled by Hidori, who appears out of nowhere. She's shocked by the creature's size while the captain can barely see it. Hidori then drops 3 mice on the ground, making the girl ask what it said. With an unfriendly look, Hidori just stares at the two of them and meows. Daewoo shoos the mice away, saying he's had enough to eat, and Hidori can have them. The scene pulls away as she helps the captain walk straight on the brightly lit street. Hidori simply observes the city under the moonlight with an arrogant look. The scene then shifts to a forest where a meow echoes over the graves of warriors. Back in the present, the morning arrives, and birds chirp outside the restaurant. Inside, Kalho is carefully brushing a small white creature's teeth, but Khan panics, shouting at the little creature not to swallow the toothpaste. Kalho then sits at the table and realizes it was his first night without nightmares. He sees a story in the newspaper about the recovered mana stones with the captain's photo. Remembering their conversation, he understands that the captain paid for the stones out of his own pocket. Kalho smiles, thinking that Daewoo was a good man and would be a great guardian. However, his gaze quickly changes, becoming serious and focused on something else. The newspaper also mentions the Foreigners, a mysterious group living in the Forbidden Zone. It explains that over the past 30 years, many hunters have appeared and also disappeared. During that time, two ideological groups clashed constantly. After a major monster invasion, they finally went their separate ways, and so they became the Foreigners, a problem that causes great concern. In an office, a man wonders if they have finally passed the point of no return. The scene changes to a hangar where a giant Mia is being analyzed by a technician. Bun Kim remarks that its movement has improved, but it will need new materials to withstand the stress. He then tells her to keep up the good work, but doesn't seem to fully grasp the situation. Just then, Gentleman appears and offers him a coffee, explaining that Beast won't leave the area. Bun Kim takes the opportunity to mention that Undertaker, one of the Foreigners, is returning to the city. He explains that there is an unofficial class -1 hunter besides the known ones. This hunter was brought in secretly so that Georger's disappearance wouldn't cause a panic. Daewoo becomes pensive because Nightcat and Undertaker are returning from missions abroad. An omen arises, suggesting that maybe something very big is about to happen. The scene cuts to the forest where Gabby is being chased and accused of being an association person. Suddenly, a bat bites her leg. Gabby then dashes through the forest, using her agility to escape her pursuers. The scene shifts to Kun, who is carefully studying a map, planning his next move. He decides to go to the northwest gates, because he hasn't investigated that area. Kun rides his new motorcycle, happy to finally have some time to himself on the road. But when he reaches a checkpoint, a guard raises the gate and stops him. He gets off the bike, and the guard announces that an inspection is required. Kun asks about all the checkpoints, and the guard explains that the area has become dangerous. Upon seeing his card, the guard recognizes him. Kun confirms he's on another trip. He remembers Kelvo's advice. When the guard checks his mana, he then signs a liability waiver, taking full responsibility for whatever happens inside. The guard wishes him a safe return, and Kun thanks him before speeding off. With a loud roar, the bike accelerates powerfully, entering the forbidden zone. He stops in the middle of the forest, thinking he's far enough to begin. With a determined look, he gets ready. The real investigation is about to start. Using his abilities, he flies through the sky, jumping toward the open dimensional gates. He checks multiple gates but only finds one with plants and another with slime. He runs out of the gate, holding his nose and complaining about the monster's stench. Suddenly, his stomach rumbles loudly, and he realizes he's hungry. He finds it strange that there are no monsters around, but he senses the aura of a dragon that has scared them away. Suddenly, he hears something and turns, feeling someone is nearby. Just then, several figures appear in the forest, and he counts more than 10 enemies. With a shocked expression, Kun realizes those people are actually hunters. He then sees Gabby cornered and wonders if she's the fairy he's heard about. The scene focuses on the surrounded woman standing at the edge of a cliff with no way out. One of the hunters taunts her, saying she has fallen into their trap, which makes her tense. She starts to sweat, feeling the vampire bat's venom spreading quickly through her body. She reflects that she has spent years hunting outsiders, and has never been cornered like this. The hunters advance, but a voice orders them not to kill her under any circumstances. The leader reveals himself, saying they have spent 5 years planning to capture her alive. Then, a man with a giant tiger appears, and the leader orders him to capture her alive. He tells the tiger to play with her until she's near death on the ground. Seeing the situation, she thinks that jumping off the cliff is her only way out now. But suddenly, the ground shakes, and the hunters are startled, not understanding what's happening. A brilliant light appears out of nowhere, leaving the warrior confused about what's happening. Just then, a huge ball of energy explodes, surprising all the hunters with its power. The attack pierces through the forest, heading straight for the enemy group. They are hit head-on by the explosion of power, screaming in pain from the impact. Even the leader and his tiger flee in terror, not understanding the reason for the retreat. He's furious, wondering how the association trained such a powerful hunter. Seeing the surreal power, he orders a retreat and warns that they'll have to redo all their plans. The hunter says she was lucky, then leaves her alone in the burning forest, but she starts to tremble uncontrollably. And the reason is not the fire around her. It's a deeper, more primal fear that makes her dizzy and completely helpless. Before she can fall to the ground, Kun suddenly appears and catches her in his arms. He realizes she's unconscious, then notices the bite of a vampire bat. With the fairy in his arms, he looks at the chaos in the forest and wonders what to do now. The scene changes to a dark, damp cave where he has taken her for shelter. Next to her, he scratches his head and repeats the question, unsure of his next step. He knows that to treat the bite, he needs to cool the wound to draw out the poison. Since he has no healing powers, he gulps, knowing he'll have to clean the area himself. Kun is conflicted. He can't bring himself to do it, but he knows the wound will get worse. He then musters all his courage, and decides to tear just a small piece of cloth very slowly. But as he gets closer, the fairy suddenly wakes up. Startled, he backs away, and shouts that he can explain as she gets up. She then asks what he's doing here, and he stammers that he found her by chance. The warrior finds it strange that he's traveling here, and he explains they are in a cave. She notices the pain is subsiding and understands that he was just trying to help her. The fairy thanks him, leaving Kun blushing and awkward, not knowing what to say. He finally manages to say it's nothing, and an awkward silence fills the air. To break the tension, Kun gets up and walks a bit, keeping his distance for a moment. He asks if she can stand, but she tries and says she can't walk yet. He then offers to help, but she warns that it's dangerous since he's not a hunter. He says it's okay, and when he calls Aunt Gabby, a robot appears. Kun watches with a very suspicious look, trying to understand what's happening. Just then, A giant robot approaches him, and the pilot recognizes him from the restaurant. The fairy then explains that he's just traveling, which confuses the pilot. Jae-woo appears, confirming the story, as he saw his name in the North Gate's log. She realizes they all came for her, and Jae-woo calls her the association's treasure. Khan, completely embarrassed, asks if she's okay, and if she needs new clothes. Jae-woo bows and thanks him for taking care of her, promising a reward, but he suggests Khan should head back soon, which makes the boy feel awkward. The scene cuts to the restaurant where a pressure cooker whistles, releasing a lot of steam. Back there, Kaldo finds a dirty Khan, who confirms he did indeed breathe fire. The little creature sways happily on his shoulder as Kaldo congratulates Khan on a job well done. Just then, the creature transforms into a little girl, who celebrates their success, leaving Kaldo worried. Khan asks if it's tiring to play with her like that all day. Kaldo admits that it's mentally exhausting, while the little girl asks to play one more time. He then explains that he needs to tire her out so she can sleep well. Outside, Khan starts laughing. So, Kaldo tells him to go help too. The scene changes to the association where an agent confirms Khan is a civilian with no mana. Daewoo remarks that he has traveled through other areas before, and the fairy calls him brave. An officer then hands over his documents showing the mana scan results were done. He looks at the file and sees that both Khan's and Kaldo's scan results detected no mana. With this, Daewoo confirms that he is indeed just a civilian with no special powers. Kaadi is lost in thought, wondering who could have used that devastating fire attack. She remembers the fear she felt and how her instincts screamed for her to run. It was a primal fear that made her wonder why she felt that aura coming from the owner's nephew. The sound of dragging chains breaks the silence, beginning a new dark flashback. The scene reveals Kaldo in the past, looking tired and in chains. He recounts that he wandered for 10 long years, always dragging the weight of the chains. On this journey, he crossed deserts, distant kingdoms, and even vast oceans, but even the greatest sages or scholars of those lands couldn't give him an answer. Exhausted, he finally collapses to the ground, believing he'll never be able to return home. With trembling hands, he begs the entity that summoned him to finally listen. A light then appears, and he shouts that he has fulfilled his duty as Miro leaves. The light makes him young again, and his eyes are filled with hope for an answer. With his eyes glowing blue, he begs to be sent back now. Just then, a black and purple energy dimensional gate begins to open in the sky. He's confused about what's happening and reaches toward the dimensional gate. His hand is pulled in, sucked by the mysterious energy. And his body is pulled through space through distant stars and planets. Wrapped in a strange light, he doesn't know what's happening. He flies through the universe, passing through a dimensional gate where a strange creature is also being sucked in. He then sees a place that looks like a demon realm filled with terrifying beasts. Soon after, a dimensional gate to the spirit realm appears with a much more peaceful landscape, but a bright light catches his attention, making him turn abruptly to see what it is. He finds himself facing a world of machines, something he has never seen before. Just then, his body is pulled into this new dimension, falling toward the light. Suddenly, his eyes glow with a golden light, signaling a major change. He then closes his eyes, trying to understand what's happening to him. With a jolt, Kaldo wakes up, drenched in sweat, realizing it was just a dream. On the bed, the radio starts playing while he and Khan are sound asleep. He gets up with Kyul in his arms, thinking he had that nightmare again. Sitting on the bed, he hears the news that Sang-Hyo Kim has been promoted to Class -1. The radio reports that there are now 4 Class -1 hunters, and Kaldo thinks the announcement was too fast. He reflects that a hunter of this level is a guarantee for the people and a warning to their enemies. Kaldo then wonders if this promotion has anything to do with the foreigner issue. Meanwhile, in the association's meeting room, an important meeting is taking place. Sang-Hyo Kim turns when he hears a chair squeak, waiting for the person to reveal themselves. Just then, the unofficial hunter Undertaker announces he has returned. After a 3-year investigation, Sang-Hyo thinks this is the first time he's met him, and his identity is a mystery. It's explained that his ability is so secret, his voice doesn't even sound human. The sound of the squeaking chair echoes through the room, sounding very strange and unique. Leaving the room, Sang-Hyo gets a coffee, and Jae-wook asks if his day was busy. He asks why he's not wearing glasses, and Jae-wook explains he wears contacts to impress Yuna. Jae-wook calls him a spoilsport and mentions the intel they are receiving is scary. Tired, Sang-Hyo vents that what he really needs now is a good beer. Hearing the word beer, Jae-wook gets excited, his eyes sparkling with joy. He then drags Sang-Hyo away, who is desperate, because the Queen of Blades will yell at him again. Sang-hyu can't believe they are drinking in the middle of the day right in the middle of the city. Just then, they find Calvo with little Kuel receiving a pizza delivery at the door. The hunter finds it strange that he's ordering delivery, but Calvo explains that his daughter wanted it. With a cute face, Kuel invites them to eat peach pizza with them. The two are enchanted, and ask if they can come in for pizza and beer. Calvo then turns and orders a few more pizzas from the delivery man, who confirms the order. The delivery man vents that he's so busy he barely has time to play with his daughter. Hearing this, Calvo invites him to bring his daughter to eat and play with Kuel. He remarks that his daughter and Kuel will get along because they are the same size. The man thanks him and leaves while little Kuel waves goodbye. With the boxes in hand, Calvo turns and announces it's time to set the table. The scene shows a pork pizza with a cheese-stuffed crust, which excites Kuel. She takes a slice and bites, the cheese stretching deliciously. Sang-hyu and Gearwork watch her, finding her absolutely adorable as she eats. Calvo then serves the beer and asks if it's okay to drink at this hour, but Sang-hyu says it's perfectly fine. Sang-hyu Kim explains they use rings that help with hangovers, but Calvo doesn't really care. He then gets excited and says he'll show them how to make a samyak cocktail. First, he stacks 2 soju glasses and fills the bottom one. He then drops the shot glass into a glass of beer and fills it with the golden drink. To finish, he taps a chopstick on it, making the mixture foam instantly. The cocktail is ready, but Sang-hyu thinks it might need a little more beer. They then raise a special toast to the association's newest classman as one hunter. They down their glasses at the same time, enjoying a moment of celebration among friends. The empty bottles show it was a long afternoon with many drinks and conversations. Suddenly, Gearwork's watch beeps, signaling it's time for them to go. Their rings glow, and Sang-hyu admits that the cocktail trick was quite useful. They say goodbye to the chief and little Kuel, and Calvo tells them to take care. Kuel asks for more pizza, and Calvo remembers something important he needs to say, but Gearwork runs back, saying he brought a new flyer for him to see. It's an invitation to the Guardian workshop, so Calvo thanks him and keeps it. Kuel sees the picture on the flyer and shouts that it's magic, leaving Calvo very confused. He turns the flyer over and sees it's the magician Dog Yeonhan, the guardian of Gangbu. The little girl then asks if the magician is his friend, and Calvo awkwardly confirms. The scene changes to a flashback in Seoul, and he thinks about them being classmates. With a smile on his face, the magician says that the harder things are, the more they should smile. He pulls a crystal ball from his top hat and asks if everyone is ready. Then, an explosion of cards flies through the sky, impressing the whole crowd. With a card held up to his face, he announces that tonight they will light up all of Gangbu, promising vibrant colors. Back at the restaurant, Calvo confirms with little Kuel that the man on the flyer is an old friend. He reflects that time has changed his friend's face and aura, but his eyes are still the same. With a smile, he remembers that his friend achieved his dream of becoming a great magician. He then becomes pensive, having thought about the passage of time before. He lived 30 years in the other world and 30 years in this one, forming relationships and connections in both. Over time, his feelings faded. He never imagined he would see an old friend again. His memories were fading, but the emotions from that time were still alive. The memories of warmth, gratitude, and sadness from those days still lingered. Despite this, he looks at the flyer again and thinks about how much his friend has really changed. The scene cuts to the performance with the crowd clapping and cheering for the show. Backstage, the magician pulls a curtain, preparing for the next act of the night. The show's crew congratulates him, and he tells them he's going ahead to take care of something, but he suddenly stops, feeling a strange and dangerous presence looming nearby. He looks up and sees a dimensional gate opening in the sky right above a building. A warning comes on his communicator, warning of a gate on the roof of the neutral building. He realizes the damage could be immense, so he decides he needs to clear the area quickly. With that, he summons a giant ace of spades card. He throws it with all his might. The magician then flies at high speed, heading straight for the gate in the sky. Using the card as a platform, he finally enters the mysterious dimension of the gate. He looks around and realizes this strange place looks like some kind of machine. The scene then shows a strange world full of gears and metal parts everywhere. He finds this scene bizarre, an unusual phenomenon that needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. With that, he decides to clear the place, preparing his deck for a new attack. 2 Joker cards then appear out of nowhere, glowing with a black and purple energy. From them emerge 2 clowns who start fighting the mechanical monsters. With a wave of his hand, the magician prepares to use another of his abilities. The head of one of the monsters starts to swell, about to explode from his power. With a snap of his fingers, he activates the spell, blowing up the strange creature for good. Several purple energy explosions destroy the monster, clearing the path ahead of him. His minions arrive to fight, but he knows the monsters are weak, and this is not the end. He knows every dungeon has a boss, so he prepares for what's to come. A giant creature begins to form from the rubble, and he tells everyone to be on guard. With a serious look, the magician says that now they have something new to worry about. The scene changes, and Hun Kim appears, impressed, looking at the monster's rubble. He asks if it's a new type of monster, so the magician explains about the gate. Hun Kim analyzes the structure, finding the system too simple and connected like a clock. He sees that the power source is a mana stone, but the technology is quite crude, so he wonders how such a basic structure can handle so much pure mana. Hun Kim asks if there was no boss since the rubble came from the new dungeon. The magician explains the boss was very large, so the association will send a transport vehicle. With the report in hand, he thanks him for his help and rushes off to analyze the parts. He recalls Undertaker's report mentioned other worlds connected to the gates. With a drop of sweat, he thinks the gate could lead to a very advanced world. He storms into the lab and asks them to analyze the mana reaction of the new material. The Ogre project was stalled because they couldn't find a material that could withstand the energy. With the object in hand, he thinks this gate could be the missing key to the project. He then runs to the magician and asks if he has eaten after all that work. With a big smile, Jerwork offers to pay for a meal as a thank you. The scene cuts to dawn with the sun rising and birds chirping in the sky. Outside the restaurant, Taldo smokes a cigarette, enjoying the morning quiet. He thinks about his friend Dog Yong and wonders what he would say if they met again. Now, looking at the flyer, memories of his past begin to surface. A flashback begins, showing the first grade teacher making an announcement to the class. She announces family cooking day, something Kalo hated doing at school. At that time, his family was falling apart, and his parents were always busy. To avoid asking for help, he decided to find a recipe in an old cookbook. But the book only had expensive dishes with ingredients he barely recognized until he finally found a recipe he recognized. Very excited. It was tteokbokki. He was happy, thinking he could do it all himself. He then gathered rice cakes and sauce, since he had all the ingredients. With everything in hand, he prepared in the kitchen, ready to start the recipe from scratch. But when he checked his pockets, he saw his few coins wouldn't be enough for everything. He then ran to the street market, hoping to buy what he was missing. When he got there, he asked for fish cakes, but the owner told him he didn't have enough money. The man then became pensive while little Cal waited with a heavy heart. Then, the owner had an idea and offered the boy a cabbage to help with his recipe. He put the cabbage in a black bag and gave it to the boy, who thanked him for the gesture. Kaltho then returned home, as happy as could be, whistling because he had been helped. Back at school, the mothers helped each other, but one warned to be careful not to spill. However, he was still alone and muttered that he could do it all without anyone's help. But suddenly, the pot boiled over, and the sauce started to spill onto the stove. He then tasted a bit but realized the recipe was too salty. To try to fix it, he poured a bunch of water from his bottle into the pot. He tried again, but his expression showed the mixture was not good at all. In the end, the dish was completely tasteless. Like a watery soup. With no ingredients left, he was desperate but tried to convince himself that everything would be fine. But the truth was, he wasn't fine. Feeling completely alone among everyone. Sniffling, he felt defeated until a voice asked about the tteokbokki. Just then, his friend arrived and excitedly asked to try some of the food. Paulo tried to stop him, but the boy was faster and had already scooped a spoonful of the dish. After tasting it, he broke into a radiant smile as if he really liked it. This reaction left Kaolho completely bewildered, completely confused about what was happening. Suddenly, his friend jumped up and shouted to the whole class that his tteokbokki was amazing. He was embarrassed and asked why he was lying. So, his friend told him to pay attention. Dog Yong said that one day he would be a magician and use magic to make his food delicious. Then, his friend turned the stove up to high, leaving Kaolho confused about his intentions. He then waved his hands over the pot as if casting a spell on the dish. The other classmates came over to ask what the two boys were cooking. One of them complained there were no fish cakes, but Dog Yong assured them it was delicious. The boy tried it and was shocked by the taste, which surprised Kaolho greatly. Curious, Kaolho also tried a bite. Still trying to understand what just happened. He asked how that could be, and his friend replied that it was real magic. With its success, the other kids flocked to the table, asking for some of the food. Kaolho thanked him and insisted on asking the question, but Dog Young said he wouldn't share his secrets for free. Desperate, he offered his coins, but his friend said that wasn't the right payment. He then made an offer, asking Kalhu to walk home with him every day. With a gentle look, Dog Young was silent, just waiting for his answer. Kalhu realized that his friend, like him, was also there alone. He then accepted the offer, and the two boys finally made a deal. Back in the present, the pot boils on the stove, releasing the smell of delicious food. He remembers that's how he became friends with Dog Yeon, but they parted ways soon after. Although their friendship was brief, he remembers that moment with great gratitude. He then tastes the broth and, with a nod, approves the flavor of the dish. With the sauce ready, he adds the vegetables to cook and soak up the seasoning. Seeing there's still meat, he thinks about frying some bell peppers to go with the tteokbokki. Little Kyul asks if they are eating meat, so he tells her to go play for a bit. She runs off excitedly to play, and Khan asks if she's gone. But before she leaves, he smothers her with kisses, which makes her laugh because it tickles. He says that as her brother, he has the right to spoil her as much as he wants. Kalhu then asks Kyul for a kiss, which completely shocks Khan at the sight. Jealous, he runs after her, shouting for a kiss from his sister. Just then, the door opens, and the magician greets the little girl and his nephew. Hun Kim then arrives with him, informing the chef that they have arrived. With a smile, the magician mentions that Hun Kim has praised his work a lot. A bit awkward, Kalhu stammers a little but welcomes the two customers. Hun Kim asks what's on the menu, and he says he can make whatever they want. The magician thinks tteokbokki sounds good, and Gearwork agrees, finding it the perfect choice. So, he ties on his apron, saying the tteokbokki will be out for them soon. As he cooks, he thinks that his friend doesn't recognize him. After all, 50 years have passed. He remembers his Dog Young's dream of becoming a magician and how he envied that. With a heavy heart, he wants to introduce himself but knows he won't be remembered. He then clenches his fist, realizing he can't say those words. The dish is finally ready, and he serves the special tteokbokki recipe with French fries. Hun Kim tries it, and is shocked by the taste. So, the magician says now he's curious. When he tastes it, he becomes pensive, trying to figure out the secret behind that flavor. Kalhu explains that the secret is that this dish is better when people are together. Gearwork then asks if the chef has eaten, but he replies that he hasn't. Kyul tells the old man that there's soup in his beard, and the magician thanks her, but he says she's also dirty, and she panics, because her clothes are new. With a trick, he pulls a card from inside his handkerchief, leaving little Kyul amazed. He then helps her hold the card, creating suspense for his next trick. Just then, the card turns into a purple flower, and she squeals with excitement at the magic. He asks her to take the flower to her dad, and call him to eat with them. She runs and gives the flower to Kalhu, inviting him to join them at the table. With a smile, he thanks her for the flower, and says they will sit down to eat together. But Gearwork's watch beeps again, breaking the restaurant's quiet. He jumps up and shouts but quickly clarifies it's not an alert, but the results. Hurriedly, he says he has to go and pays before rushing out. The magician then remarks that young people are full of passion, and Kalhu agrees with him. Kalhu then gets up and goes to the counter, thinking about the tteokbokki sauce. He then asks if the magician used instant noodle seasoning, which shocks the man. Dog Young confirms, and says the nostalgic taste reminds him of an old friend who used to visit. He explains that his family was poor, but his friend's tteokbokki was always very delicious. Kalhu then asks what they used to talk about, and the magician laughs at the memory. He reveals his dream was to be a magician, because he loved seeing people's happy smiles, but he says he had no talent, so he always jumped from troop to troop. When the world changed, he gained real power, and became what they call a guardian. And in difficult times, he always remembers the days they used to dream together. He remembers the innocent days when they would laugh and talk until the sun finally set. Hearing all this, Kalhu is silent, just processing his friend's memories. He then asks about Nell, and the magician says that deep down, nothing has really changed, because he still protects people, and his childhood dream is as vivid as ever. The promise to use magic on the food echoes strongly in Kalhu's mind at that moment. With a big smile, he replies that he's very happy to hear all that from him. The magician then says his goodbyes, thanking him for the meal, and the wonderful time they had. He then introduces himself as Dog Yeon-han, and extends his hand, asking for the chef's name. Shaking his hand, Kalhu introduces himself, saying his name is Kalhu Kang. From the doorway, he says goodbye, watching his childhood friend leave the restaurant. Outside, the magician finds the name familiar, and keeps repeating it, trying to remember. Suddenly, A memory surfaces, and he remembers the boy named Kaolho. He turns immediately, looking back at the restaurant, still in disbelief. At the door, Kaolho holds Q, who whimpers in his arms, while Kun looks grumpy. Dog Younghan laughs to himself, still thinking such a coincidence is impossible. Meanwhile, Q gives the flower she received to Kun, which makes him very excited. Kaolho looks up at the sky and thinks, hoping his old friend will come back more often. The scene changes to the lab, where scientists discover the material is very durable. Hun Kim says that if a small piece can withstand a class -6 stone, the chief will be even stronger. He's excited because this could be what they've been looking for all along. With an admiring look, he says it's scary, but he can't